Chapter 2063. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Shangguan Fenglan frowned and said, "It's not that I doubt you, but can you really develop this kind of elixir?" This was equivalent to creating a brand new elixir recipe. Even those old antiques who had lived for countless years couldn't do this, let alone these two young people in front of her. Brother Jiang didn't lie to you. We both liked to refine elixirs and study elixirs since we were young. I remember one night 50 years ago, we got together to drink tea and chat as usual. But suddenly, Brother Jiang asked a question. Since the red fire glaze elixir exists in this world, why can't there be other elixirs that can improve one's cultivation level? We discussed for a while, and then we hit it off and started to study this kind of elixir. We spent 15 years on it. During that time we really worked hard. I don't know how many elixir furnaces we blew up. In the end, God didn't let us down. We finally developed two kinds of elixirs, the 9-Chu Yellow Dragon Elixir, and the 9-Turn Dragon Blood Elixir. Mu Tianyang smiled and said with pride on his face as if it was real, "You really developed it?" Seeing the sincerity on their faces, it didn't seem like they were talking. But Shangguan Fenglan just couldn't believe it. So did Shangguan Qiu. Researching a new kind of medicinal pill. This was simply a fantasy. Qin Feiyang sighed and said, "To be honest, I still regret developing these two kinds of elixirs." "Why?" The two sisters looked at him suspiciously. If this was true, it would be a shocking achievement, destined to be famous for thousands of years. How could he regret it? Brother Mu and I have always been on good terms, even as close as brothers. But after developing these two kinds of elixirs, we gradually began to have differences. What I mean is that these two kinds of elixirs can benefit the world. It's better to announce it to the public and share it with the world. Brother Mu, what you mean is that we worked so hard to develop them. Why should we share them with others? Later, our differences became bigger and bigger, almost to the point of falling out. Qin Feiyang sighed. No wonder your relationship is so complicated. No wonder, when you came to me to cooperate, Mu Qing also ran out. Shangguan Qiu was suddenly enlightened. Qin Feiyang, although it's a lie, you don't have to elevate yourself and belittle me, do you? Mu Tianyang said angrily. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice, am I wrong? You're that kind of person. All right. I won't stoop to your level. Mu Tianyang snorted. Qin Feiyang secretly smiled proudly, then looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said, "Although we have a bad relationship, in fact, in the depths of Brother Mu's heart, he still cares about me. When he learned that Feng Yuan plotted against me, he did not hesitate to stand up and help me." That's a nice sentence. Mu Tianyang laughed inwardly. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Speaking of which, I really have to thank Feng Yuan. If it weren't for him, I'm afraid that Brother Mu and I wouldn't be able to return to the past." Shangguan Qiu asked, "Now you've buried the hatchet?" "Yes. We've already discussed it. In the future, we'll split the profits from your treasure school 50-50. And we'll continue the unfinished research." Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "What research?" Shangguan Fenglan and Shangguan Qiu were surprised. Before we had a disagreement, we were already researching a kind of elixir that can help war gods break through cultivation. Qin Feiyang said, "What are you doing? Are you going to expose the 4 symbols everlasting elixir?" Mu Tianyang discreetly raised his eyebrows and secretly asked. No matter how good the 9-Chu Yellow Dragon Elixir and the 9 Transformation Dragon Blood Elixir are, it's only useful for people below war gods. For war gods, it's not that tempting. But the 4 symbols everlasting elixir is different. Once this elixir appears, it will definitely cause a mad scramble, especially for the disciples of our 9th Heaven Palace. After all, most of the disciples of our 9th Heaven Palace are war gods. Qin Feiyang said inwardly, "It makes sense, I don't object. But we must use the highest price to trade with the treasure pavilion." Mu Tianyang pondered for a while and transmitted his voice to Shangguan Qiu. "Of course," Qin Feiyang replied. "A kind of elixir that can help war gods break through cultivation?" Shangguan Fenglan and Shangguan Qiu looked at each other. Wasn't this a little too shocking? Shangguan Fenglan came back to her senses and asked hurriedly, "How's your research going?" "It's almost done." Qin Feiyang nodded. Shangguan Qiu asked in a hurry, "Show it to us." Qin Feiyang said, "It hasn't been refined yet. I'm missing a kind of herb. What kind of herb? Sheng Guanqiu asked. Qin Feiyong said, white tiger blood essence. White tiger blood essence. Sheng Guanqiu was stunned. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and asked in surprise, did you ask the deputy pavilion master for the Wuji divine fruit and the blood essence of the 4 sacred beasts to refine this kind of elixir? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. This, Sheng Guanqiu was stunned. Then, he shook his head regretfully and said, the treasure pavilion doesn't have the white tiger blood essence at the moment. But if you give me some time, I'm sure I can find it. After all, the treasure pavilion doesn't only exist in the North region. We also have forces in Dongling, Western Desert, and Southern Wilderness. Distant water can't put out a nearby fire. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. He looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said, you should know that Feng Yuan raised the requirement to enter the resource hall to target me. Yes. Shangguan Fenglan nodded. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, registration starts the day after tomorrow. There's no time. This, Shangguan Fenglan frowned. Sheng Guanqiu suddenly said, sister, doesn't Feng Yuan have a white tiger divine beast with him? As soon as Sheng Guanqiu said that, Qin Feiyong's eyes lit up. He then looked at Shangguan Fenglan. He wanted to know Shangguan Fenglan's reaction. Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. She looked at Sheng Guanqiu and asked suspiciously, you want me to go to Feng Yuan? Yes. Sheng Guanqiu nodded. It won't work. Feng Yuan has always seen me as a thorn in his side. How can he give me the white tiger essence blood? Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. Actually, as long as the temple master wants to, Feng Yuan will hand over the white tiger essence blood even if you don't do it yourself. Qin Feiyong smiled. What do you mean? Shangguan Fenglan looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyong said, I won't hide it from you. I've already made a move on Feng Yuan. He will send the white tiger essence blood here in the wee hours of the morning. Made a move? Shangguan Fenglan and Sheng Guanqiu looked at each other, their faces full of surprise. We kidnapped Feng Zijuan. Qin Feiyong said. What? The two sisters looked at Qin Feiyong and Mu Tianyang stunned. Why are you so surprised? I said that although I have a private deal with Feng Zihan, it doesn't affect my determination to get rid of them. Qin Feiyong smiled. Shangguan Fenglan said in a low voice, you are really bold to do such a thing in the 9th Heaven Palace. If the temple master doesn't agree, I will send Feng Zijuan back. Anyway, he doesn't know that it was me and Brother Mu who kidnapped him. But temple master, you and Feng Yuan are old rivals. You should know better than me how much Feng Yuan loves Feng Zijuan. If Feng Zijuan is unfortunately killed, you can imagine how big of a blow it will be to Feng Yuan. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Shangguan Fenglan frowned and said, isn't this a little too despicable? Despicable? Feng Yuan secretly bribed the people of the law enforcement hall to take away your power. Isn't that despicable? Besides, this Feng Zijuan deserved to die. Qin Feiyong said. This? Shangguan Fenglan hesitated. Sheng Guanqiu said, sister, since we are going to deal with him, there is no need to be merciful. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Sheng Guanqiu, then looked at Qin Feiyong and Mu Tianyang. She nodded and said, okay, you can deal with this matter yourselves. It was tantamount to acquiescence. Mu Tianyang smiled secretly and said, Brother Qin, this is a smart move. You directly dragged them into the water. Qin Feiyong smiled secretly and looked at Shangguan Fenglan. He said, then after midnight, we will have to trouble the temple master to cover us. Cover? Shangguan Fenglan was suspicious. Feng Yuan has already suspected me of Feng Zijuan's kidnapping. When we entered the city, he had already sent people to follow us. I guess when we return to the 9th Heaven Palace after the deal, we may be blocked by him at the stairway to heaven. At that time we will need the temple master to cover us. Qin Feiyong said. He had originally planned to let Sheng Guanqiu testify, but now Shangguan Fenglan had taken the initiative to come to him. How could he let her go? Because Shangguan Fenglan's words were more credible than Sheng Guanqiu's. Shangguan Fenglan heard this and frowned. She said, why do I feel like I have been tricked by you? No. You just have to cover for us. You can't interfere with anything else. Even if the matter is exposed in the end, it will not implicate you. Qin Feiyong said. I have already covered for you. It will not implicate me. Do you think I am stupid? Shangguan Fenglan was angry. She had really been tricked. Unknowingly, she had been set up. Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly. Shangguan Fenglan glanced at the two and let out a long breath. She asked, the deal is at midnight, right? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. You don't need me to go? Shangguan Fenglan asked. Yes. Brother Mu and I will go. Qin Feiyong said. Shangguan Fenglan said, well, we will stay here until midnight. But I have a condition. What condition? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Shangguan Fenglan said, I want to see you refine the elixir that can help the god of war break through with my own eyes. No problem. Qin Feiyong nodded without hesitation. The temperature and details needed to refine the four symbols infinite divine elixir were not something that could be grasped at a glance. So there was no need to worry about Shangguan Fenglan secretly learning from him. Shangguan Fenglan said, one last question. What is your relationship with the Deputy Pavilion Master of the Treasure School? Qin Feiyong frowned and turned to look at Shangguan Qiu. Only Shangguan Qiu knew about his meeting with the Deputy Pavilion Master. There was no doubt that she must have told Shangguan Fenglan. Chapter 2064. First, it was the 9-chew yellow dragon pill and the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. Now, it was the meeting with the Deputy Pavilion Master. Why was this woman so talkative? Qin Feiyong could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. He looked at Shangguan Qiu and said, pardon me for asking, but are you from the 9 Heavens Palace or the Treasure Pavilion? Shangguan Qiu's expression froze. Although you and the Temple Master are sisters, shouldn't you take a stand? I'm curious. If the Deputy Pavilion Master knows that you gave the information to the people of the 9 Heavens Palace, how will he react? Qin Feiyong said again. He really didn't want to give this woman any more face. When Shangguan Qiu heard this, he could not help but look a little flustered. Shangguan Fenglan frowned and said, this has nothing to do with my sister. Nothing to do with her? Then Temple Master, you are so resourceful. You even know that I have a relationship with the Deputy Pavilion Master. Qin Feiyong sneered. You don't need to know how I know. I won't ask about your business. Anyway, don't drag this into my sister's business. Shangguan Fenglan said lightly. What business can I have? Qin Feiyong was curious. Do I have to explain it to you? Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. Who are you and Mu Tianyang? What's your background? Up until now, all of these things have remained a mystery. Shangguan Fenglan said. Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, I didn't expect that the Temple Master of the 9 Heavens Palace would secretly investigate the identities of 2 disciples. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and said, Brother Mu, it's our honor to have the Temple Master put in so much effort. Enough. Stop singing the same tune. It's not me who wants to investigate you. It's the First Elder. Shangguan Fenglan said impatiently. Qin Feiyong said, so, it's the First Elder's idea to ask about my relationship with the Deputy Pavilion Master? Yes. Shangguan Fenglan nodded. Then I don't understand. Although I am a disciple of 9 Heavens Palace, I still have my freedom. Does it have anything to do with the Great Elder? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Shangguan Fenglan's eyes suddenly turned cold, and she said, be careful of what you say. Actually, even if you don't tell me, I know that the First Elder has a grudge with the Vice Pavilion Master. Qin Feiyong said. Shangguan Fenglan's pupils contracted. Could it be that this kid knew about that incident back then? Brother Jiang, what happened? Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyong curiously. A long time ago, the First Elder's son entered the Heavenly Dragon Sea to steal a rank 9 soul line, but he was seriously injured by the Vice Pavilion Master. Later, on the way back to 9 Heaven Palace, he was attacked by sea beasts and unfortunately lost his life. And because of this, the Great Elder has always held a grudge against the Vice Pavilion Master. Furthermore, he even crippled one of the Vice Pavilion Master's legs. So when the Great Elder knew that I had a grudge with the Vice Pavilion Master, he couldn't help but be a little angry. Qin Feiyong said lightly, there's such a thing? Mu Tianyang was surprised. Shangguan Fenglan glanced at Mu Tianyang, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said in a deep voice, how did you know? Although this matter has been in the past for a long time, It was not a secret back then. As long as you have the heart, it's not difficult to find out, Qin Feiyang said. Shangguan Fenglan said angrily, "You were also investigating us behind our backs? Sigh. You are all big shots, and I can't afford to offend you, so I can only investigate your background to cater to you, lest I get killed one day and I don't even know why," Qin Feiyang said. Shangguan Fenglan stared at Qin Feiyang with a bone-piercing chill in her eyes. Although she had been in contact with Qin Feiyang in the past, they didn't talk much, so she didn't feel anything. But this time, after talking slowly, she found that this boy had far exceeded her expectations. He was even somewhat out of control. This reminded her of what the great elder had said back then, that a person who couldn't be controlled should be immediately obliterated. But at the same time, after this conversation, she became more and more curious about Qin Feiyang. It was as if there was a kind of magic that attracted her to the mysterious aura that he exuded. According to the great elder, she could take action now. But in her heart she was a little hesitant. To be exact, she couldn't bear to do it and wanted to see the follow-up development. Phew. A moment later, Shangguan Fenglan took a deep breath, looked at Qin Feiyang and said again, "It's not necessarily a good thing to be too smart." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your reminder, Temple Master. I will keep it in mind." Shangguan Fenglan glanced at him indifferently, then lowered her head in silence. No one knew what she was thinking. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he turned to look at Shangguan Qiu, saying, "Let's talk about our cooperation." "That's what I was thinking." Shangguan Qiu nodded. In fact, this was one of the reasons why she asked Qin Feiyang out this time. After all, the cooperation with Qin Feiyang was the Deputy Pavilion Master's order, so it had to be handled as soon as possible. Qin Feiyang said, "How did you and Brother Mu cooperate before?" 9 Chu Yellow Dragon Elixir Divine Crystals. 9 Turn Dragon Blood Elixir Soul Stones, Shangguan Qiu said. "Just as I expected." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and asked, "How much do you pay Brother Mu for refining a 9 Turn Dragon Blood Elixir?" 1,000 soul stones, Shangguan Qiu said. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Mu Tianyang. 1,000 soul stones indeed. Mu Tianyang nodded. "That's a good price. 1,000 soul stones, 10,000 soul stones, 100 soul stones, 1,000 soul stones. And you don't have to pay for the herbs, you can earn so much just by refining the elixir." Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Tianyang and smiled. Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes and said, "No matter how much I earn, I can't compare with you." Qin Feiyang shook his head with a smile and looked at Shangguan Qiu, saying, "I don't care how you cooperate with Brother Mu. But if you cooperate with me, you have to follow my rules." Shangguan Qiu raised his eyebrows and said, 1,000 soul stones is the maximum limit of the treasure pavilion. Don't worry, the 9 Turn Dragon Blood Elixir will still be 1,000 soul stones per elixir. But you have to use soul stones to trade for the 9 Turn Dragon Elixir. Give me 500 soul stones per elixir. Qin Feiyang said. "Why don't you just rob?" Shangguan Qiu was a little annoyed. In fact, he had expected that the 9 Turn Dragon Elixir would be traded with soul stones, but he did not expect the price to be so high. 500 soul stones. This was an exorbitant price. 500 soul stones is not a lot. If the treasure pavilion auctioned with soul stones, one 9 Turn Dragon Elixir would be worth at least tens of thousands, Qin Feiyang said. Shangguan Qiu said, "The treasure pavilion has never used soul stones to bid before. Rules are dead, but people are flexible. As a businessman, you should always be flexible. For elixirs like the 9 Turn Dragon Elixir, using divine crystals to bid for it is simply a waste of its value," Qin Feiyang said. "A waste of its value," Shangguan Qiu murmured. Listening to what this person said, it seemed to make some sense. After all, this elixir was directly related to one's cultivation level. Even if it was auctioned with soul stones, it would still cause a frenzy. After pondering for a while, Shangguan Qiu exhaled and looked at Qin Feiyang. He nodded and said, "Okay, deal." "Haha, Brother Qin is really something. I'm impressed." Mu Tianyang laughed secretly. If the 9 Turn Dragon Elixir was traded with soul stones, there would undoubtedly be a large income in the future. Thinking back to what Mu Qing did in the past, it was really incomparable to this person. Qin Feiyang said to himself, Don't be happy too early. You'll be in charge of refining elixirs. Me? Mu Tianyang was stunned. Of course. You want soul stones but don't want to refine elixirs. How can there be such a good deal in the world? Qin Feiyang said. Okay. Leave refining elixirs to me. Mu Tianyang was somewhat helpless. In fact, he did not want to refine elixirs, because refining elixirs was too time-consuming. However, what Qin Feiyang said made sense. There was no free lunch in the world. If you wanted to get something, you had to pay the price. Of course, he could not refine elixirs himself. After all, Mu Qing was also an elixir alchemist. This kind of thing would definitely be left to Mu Qing. Hearing Mu Tianyang's response, Qin Feiyang looked at Shangguanqiu and said with a smile, although we are cooperating now, if you want to make a deal in the future, you should still look for Brother Mu. Look for him? Shangguanqiu was slightly stunned and said speechlessly, I really admire you guys. After fighting for so long, you are cooperating in the end. This is called the unpredictable world. Next, let's talk about the Wuji divine fruit and the divine beast blood essence. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Shangguanqiu seemed to have been prepared. He took out 3 jade bottles and a rectangular jade box from his interspatial ring. The jade bottles were not big, and there was a little blood in them. The jade box was about half a meter long, and the lid was tightly closed. Looking at the jade bottles and jade boxes, Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang's eyes suddenly lit up. Mu Tianyang could not wait to open the jade box. He saw fruits lying quietly inside. These fruits were only the size of an egg. They were shaped like small gourds, and the surface of the fruits was shining with a crystal-clear divine light. Qin Feiyang also picked up the 3 jade bottles and examined them carefully. The blood was different from ordinary blood. It looked like precious diamonds shining with a hazy light. Furthermore, when the jade bottle was opened, an extremely strong and pure divine beast's aura immediately surged out. That's right. It's the blood essence of the azure dragon, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise, Qin Feiyang whispered and looked up at Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang said with a smile, 20 Wuji divine fruits. Not one more, not one less. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Shangguanqiu. He said, name your price. Shangguanqiu pursed his lips and said with a smile, I was going to use divine gems to trade for these things. Looking at the smile on Shangguanqiu's face, Qin Feiyang could not help but have a bad feeling. Mu Tianyang glanced at Qin Feiyang and Shangguanqiu, as if he was watching a show. Shangguanqiu's smile became brighter. He said, but you just said that a businessman should know how to be flexible. So now I am going to use soul stones to trade with you. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. Was he slapping himself in the face? Chapter 2065. What do you think? I learned and applied it on the spot. Not bad, right? Shangguanqiu teased. Seeing Qin Feiyang being defeated, she felt inexplicably happy. Impressive. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. If he had known, he would have talked about this deal first before discussing the cooperation. He had dug a hole for himself. Shangguanqiu smiled proudly. She had finally won this round. Qin Feiyang collected himself and said, tell me how many soul stones? 60 drops of essence blood, 100,000 soul stones per drop. As for the Wuji divine fruit, Shangguanqiu thought for a while and said with a smile, I'll give you 100,000 each. You make it sound like you're at a disadvantage. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Mu Tianyang, who had been watching coldly from the side, suddenly said, Miss, I have a question. What is it? Shangguanqiu looked at him suspiciously. 1 drop of blood, 100,000 soul stones per drop, and 100,000 soul stones per Wuji divine fruit. And the elixir we're researching needs 4 drops of essence blood and 1 Wuji divine fruit. In other words, just the cost of building it costs 500,000 soul stones. In the future when we succeed, how much do you plan to bid? Mu Tianyang asked. Even if you bid 1 million soul stones, someone will buy it. After all, this is an elixir that can help the god of war break through. It's not at the same level as the 9 Chu Yellow Dragon elixir and the 9 Transformation Dragon Blood elixir. Shangguanqiu smiled confidently. 1 million soul stones. Even in the 9th Heaven Palace, only a few disciples can afford it. Mu Tianyang said. Good things go to the highest bidder. If everyone can afford it, how can it be good? Shang Guanqiu said. You're indeed a businessman. You're better than anyone else. Mu Tianyang shook his head and smiled. Shang Guanqiu smiled and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, the total price of 60 drops of blood essence is 6 million, and the total price of 20 Wuji immortal fruits is 2 million. That's a total of 8 million. Young Master Jiang, please pay the bill. 8 million soul stones. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. Just thinking about it made his heart ache. You even got 4 billion soul stones from Feng Zihan. What are 8 million soul stones to you? Shang Guanqiu said. People like you who grew up with a silver spoon in their mouths will never understand the life of people like us at the bottom. Back then, forget about 4 billion soul stones, even 40,000 soul stones. No, even 1,000 soul stones was an astronomical figure to me. Qin Feiyang sighed. Shang Guanqiu smiled and said, I've never experienced this feeling before. That's why I said you don't understand. But since it's a business deal, I naturally can't go back on my word. Qin Feiyang smiled and secretly transmitted his voice. Old Zhao, help me count out 8 million soul stones. All right. Zhao Tailai responded. Very soon. Qin Feiyang took out an interspatial ring and threw it to Shang Guanqiu. Shang Guanqiu carefully counted it and put it away with a smile on his face. Qin Feiyang also sent the blood essence and the Wuji divine fruit into the ancient castle. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, now we only need the white tiger blood essence. I really hope that midnight will come soon. You can't rush it. Just wait and see. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. They're still in Yulan Tower? In the resource hall. Feng Yuan looked at Feng Wenhai's shadow and frowned. Yes. Feng Wenhai nodded. Is it really not them? Feng Yuan muttered. Father, can we leave Zhang Haotian alone for now? Saving Zijuan is more important. Feng Wenhai said. Feng Yuan frowned and said angrily, didn't I investigate Zhang Haotian to save Zijuan? Feng Wenhai said. But now it's proven that it's not them. Why are you still thinking about these questions? Don't worry. I've already prepared the white tiger blood essence. I'll just wait for midnight to come and trade with them. Feng Yuan said. Feng Wenhai asked, then do you want me to find someone to ambush them in advance? With this old man taking action personally, do you still need others? Besides, if even this old man can't keep them, then the people you sent will be even more useless. Don't worry about this matter. This old man will handle it. You just wait for the news at home. Feng Yuan said. Okay. Feng Wenhai nodded. At this moment, whether it was Qin Feiyang and the others or the people of the Feng family, they all felt that time was passing very slowly. It was clearly only a few hours, but it felt like a few centuries had passed. Amidst the torturous wait, dawn finally arrived. In the private room, Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other and suddenly stood up. During this period of time, Shangguan Fenglan had been resting with her eyes closed. When she heard the commotion, she opened her eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang and Feng Yu. She asked, Feng Yuan's strength is not inferior to mine. Can you two really do it? If the hall master can come in person, we naturally can't ask for more, Mu Tianyang said with a smile. Hearing this, Shangguan Fenglan did not even reply and directly closed her eyes. Hypocrite, Mu Tianyang secretly said. Get used to it. Qin Feiyang patted him on the shoulder, took out 2 illusory pills, casually changed his appearance, and entered the Black Tortoise world, flying toward the West City Gate. In the early morning, even in the city, it was difficult to see many people, let alone outside the city. The plains outside the West City Gate were quiet. Coming to the sky above the plains, Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang were not in a hurry to show up. They had been looking for traces of Feng Yuan, because they were worried that Feng Yuan might be hiding in the dark and catch them off guard when they were not paying attention. In short, before they saw Feng Yuan, they would never go out first. And in the end, they searched the entire plains outside the West City Gate, but did not find Feng Yuan. This old thing, is he not here yet? Mu Tianyang frowned. This is related to Feng Zijuan's life and death. How could he dare to be negligent? I think he should be the same as us now, hiding in the space divine object, monitoring the movements outside. Qin Feiyang scanned the night sky. It seemed that this old thing would not obediently hand over the white tiger blood essence. Then go out and search with your spirit sense. Mu Tianyang laughed. With Feng Yuan's status and strength, do you think he won't have the hidden soul stone? Qin Feiyong sneered. Then we can't just stay here and do nothing. Mu Tianyang said. Don't worry. He can't outlast us. Unless he doesn't want to save Feng Zijuan. Qin Feiyong sneered. Next, the two stood in the black tortoise world, quietly waiting. Sure enough, it was as Qin Feiyong had expected. About a moment later, a red-haired old man appeared in the sky above the plains. Who else could it be but Feng Yuan? He looked around and frowned. What's going on? Why haven't you come yet? Didn't you just come now? But before his voice faded, a mocking laugh sounded behind him. Feng Yuan was slightly taken aback and quickly turned to look, only to see two big men standing in the void not far away. These two big men were naturally Qin Feiyong and Mu Tianyang after changing their appearances. The clothes of the Nine Heavens Palace had also been changed, and they were all wearing black clothes. Feng Yuan looked at Qin Feiyong and said in a deep voice, "When did you guys come?" Qin Feiyong said, "You should have come before us. Then why are you hiding? Let me wait for so long." Feng Yuan said angrily, "Aren't you hiding too?" Qin Feiyong looked at him mockingly. Feng Yuan's heart trembled. He actually guessed his thoughts. It seemed that these two people were not ordinary people. "This is definitely not your true appearance. Who are you?" Feng Yuan said in a deep voice. Hallmaster Feng Yuan is indeed smart. But do you think we will be stupid enough to tell you our true identity? Qin Feiyong laughed contemptuously. Feng Yuan clenched his hands, holding back his anger, and asked, "Where is Feng Zijuan? Where is the thing we want?" Qin Feiyong did not answer but asked instead. Feng Yuan took out a jade bottle from his bosom, which was half filled with blood, and said, 20 drops of white tiger blood essence, not a drop less." Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed, and he stretched out his hand. "Let me verify." Feng Yuan said. "Give me Feng Zijuan first." "Impossible. Your cultivation is so strong. If I give you Feng Zijuan first, what if you go back on your words?" Qin Feiyong said. Feng Yuan said, "Then this old man is also worried that you will go back on your words after getting the white tiger blood essence. If this stalemate continues, it will not be good for you. How about this? Let me show you something first." Qin Feiyong took out Feng Zijuan's universe ring and threw it to Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan caught it in his hand, looked down, and his face immediately darkened. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, "I believe you are familiar with this universe ring. If you dare to harm even a single hair on his head, then even if you can fly, this old man will still kill you." Feng Yuan said fiercely, "Don't worry. As long as you give me the white tiger blood essence, I promise to give you a healthy Feng Zijuan." Qin Feiyong said with a smile. "You want this old man to hand over the blood essence first? Never. How about this? Let's exchange the person and the goods at the same time." Feng Yuan said. No. Your cultivation is too strong. If we capture Feng Zijuan and you directly release your pressure to imprison us, won't we become lambs waiting to be slaughtered? It seems that you are not sincere at all. In that case, this deal is off. As for Feng Zijuan, you can wait to collect his corpse." Qin Feiyong smiled coldly, grabbed Mu Tianyang and disappeared without a trace. "Wait. This old man will give it to you." Feng Yuan's expression changed and he quickly shouted. Qin Feiyong and Feng Yuan appeared out of thin air with smiles on their faces. "Give it to me," Qin Feiyong said as he stretched out his hand. Feng Yuan waved his hand and the jade bottle in his hand immediately turned into a stream of light and landed in front of Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong grabbed it in his hand and opened the bottle cap. A terrifying aura suddenly roared out. This was the aura of the divine beast White Tiger. Mu Tianyang said with a smile, "This is the White Tiger blood essence. Thank you, Hallmaster Feng Yuan. Wait here, we will bring Feng Zijuan out immediately." Qin Feiyong laughed and brought Mu Tianyang to the Black Tortoise Realm's herb field. He immediately controlled the Black Tortoise Realm and flew away like lightning. Outside, seeing the two disappear again, Feng Yuan immediately released his divine sense and enveloped the surroundings. But he couldn't find anything in the void. Could it be that he has also merged with the hidden soul stone? Feng Yuan frowned. But then, a trace of ridicule crept up in his eyes as he thought to himself, "You think you can escape from this old man's palm with the hidden soul stone? When Zijuan appears, it will be your time of death. However, he didn't know that the Black Tortoise realm had already entered Sky Dragon City. Chapter 2066. Just as Qin Feiyang controlled the Black Tortoise realm and was about to return to Yulan Restaurant, a terrifying aura erupted outside the West City Gate like a volcano. The owner of this aura was Feng Yuan. Obviously, he had realized that he had been tricked. There was no doubt about it. The entire Sky Dragon City was awakened by Feng Yuan's aura at this moment. Everyone was bewildered. In the private room, Shangguan Qiu and Shangguan Fenglan stood in front of the window, looking in the direction of the West City Gate. Shangguan Fenglan said, "It seems that they have succeeded." Even Feng Yuan was fooled by them. What a terrifying pair. Shangguan Qiu sighed. So in the future when you work with them you must be careful. Shangguan Fenglan reminded him. I know. Shangguan Qiu nodded. We are not bad people. Why are you guarding against us? Before the two finished speaking, a faint laughter sounded. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang appeared in the private room. Not bad people. Do you think you are good people? Shameless. Shangguan Qiu looked at them with disdain. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other and could not help but laugh. Then they looked up and looked at the West City Gate. The West City Gate above the plains. Feng Yuan clenched his fists. His long red hair danced in the wind like a blood waterfall. His eyes were also red. From afar he looked like a wild beast that was about to go crazy. Damn it, damn it. How dare you trick me? This is unforgivable. First, he had planned to kill Feng Zijuan as soon as he appeared. However, he did not expect that after waiting for so long, the other party did not appear. It was obvious. The other party had no intention of returning Feng Zijuan to him. In other words, he had been tricked. As the palace master of the Ninth Heaven Palace's resource hall, how could he not be angry? Whoosh! Accompanied by two ear-piercing sounds, several city guards flew over. It's Feng Yuan. When they saw Feng Yuan's face, their faces changed. Lord Feng Yuan, what happened to you? Do you need any help? Several people hurriedly went up and asked. Feng Yuan turned a deaf ear to him, his face dark to the extreme. Swish! Two more figures appeared in front of Feng Yuan. Grandpa, what's going on? Father, where is Zijuan? It was Feng Wenhai and Feng Zihan. The father and daughter duo scanned their surroundings. Other than the few city guards, there was no one else. Could it be? The father and daughter trembled and hurriedly looked at Feng Yuan again. I will not let them off. Zihan, come back with me and block the stairway to heaven. Anyone who returns to Nine Heaven Palace now is a suspect. Feng Yuan waved his hand, and a teleportation altar was activated. He then stepped onto the altar with anger. Zihan, this. Feng Wenhai glanced at Feng Yuan, then at Feng Zihan, his face filled with anxiety. Father, don't worry. We will save Zijuan. Feng Zihan smiled and comforted him before turning around and stepping onto the altar. After Feng Wenhai sent the two of them off, he turned to look in the direction of the Yulan Pavilion, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Whoosh! Immediately after, he teleported into the mountains outside the plains and took out the image crystal. Soon, the shadow of a middle-aged man in black appeared. Feng Wenhai said in a deep voice, Are they still in the Yulan Pavilion? Yes. The middle-aged man in black nodded. Feng Wenhai frowned. Did anyone come out during this period? Zhang Haotian and Mu Tianyang have not appeared. But Shangguan Qiu did come out a few times. The middle-aged man in black said. Why did she come out? Feng Wenhai asked. Get someone to send wine up. The middle-aged man in black said. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the entrance of the restaurant. Wait, someone seems to have come out. The middle-aged man in black was still hiding in the alley opposite. After hearing the commotion, he said something to Feng Wenhai and turned his head suspiciously. How is that possible? Immediately, his eyes widened, filled with disbelief. What's wrong? Feng Wenhai was surprised. The middle-aged man in black turned a deaf ear and stared at the entrance of the restaurant in shock. He saw two men and two women coming out of the Yulan Pavilion one after another. It was Qin Feiyang and the other three. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang reeked of alcohol and walked unsteadily. Feng Wenhai said, "What did you see? Why is she still here?" The middle-aged man in black murmured, looking back at Feng Wenhai, and said in a deep voice, "It's Shangguan Fenglan. She's with Jiang Haotian." "What?" Hearing this, Feng Wenhai was shocked and hurriedly said, "Are you sure you didn't see wrongly?" "No. It's absolutely true," the middle-aged man in black said in a deep voice. "Shangguan Fenglan, Shangguan Qiu. Why are these two sisters with them?" Feng Wenhai murmured, his heart full of confusion. "Sister, they're so drunk that you have to send them back personally." At the entrance of the restaurant, Shangguan Qiu glanced at Qin Feiyang and Shangguan Qiu and smiled at Shangguan Fenglan. "I'm not drunk. I'm not drunk either." "Then let's go. Let's go back and continue fighting until dawn." "Let's go, I'm not afraid of you," Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang said to each other, then put their arms around each other's shoulders and tried to enter the restaurant. Shangguan Qiu stopped them and said helplessly, "You really can't drink anymore, go back and rest. Get out of my way. It's not like I don't have money to pay the bill. Quick, give me a few more jars, I must make him drunk today." Qin Feiyang shouted. Shangguan Qiu smiled helplessly, looked at Shangguan Fenglan, and said, "Sister, send them back quickly." "Okay." Shangguan Fenglan nodded, forcibly swept up Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang, and then rose into the air, disappearing into the night sky like lightning. Ninth Heaven Palace. In front of the stairway, Feng Yuan stood on the first step, his face gloomy. Feng Zihan stood by the side, his eyes flashing with a cold light. Whoosh! Suddenly, accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, 3 young men flew to the top of the mountain. "Greetings, Temple Master." "Greetings, Senior Sister Zihan." The 3 of them were inner disciples of Ninth Heaven Palace, and they had the cultivation of a half-step divine lord. When they saw Feng Yuan and Feng Zihan, they were first stunned, then quickly ran over and bowed. Feng Yuan glanced at the 3 of them and said, "Where did you come from?" "Outside." The 3 of them were a little puzzled. What did that mean? "Be specific." Feng Yuan shouted. "We just came back from the Sky Dragon Sea." The 3 of them quickly said, "Experience. Since it's an experience, why are there no wounds on your body, no bloodstains?" Feng Yuan said angrily. The 3 of them were depressed to the extreme. What kind of question was that? "Speak." Feng Yuan shouted angrily. Yes, yes, yes. Normally, disciples like us who go to the Sky Dragon Sea to experience will wash off the bloodstains on our bodies before coming back. Firstly, we are afraid of dirtying the stairway, and secondly, we pay attention to our image. As for the wounds, of course there are. We will take off our clothes now for you to check. As the 3 of them spoke, they took off their clothes. Their upper bodies were indeed full of scars. Feng Zihan swept a glance at those scars, looked at Feng Yuan and said, "Grandfather, they are fine. You believe so much that their injuries were caused in the Heavenly Dragon Sea? What if they did it on purpose?" Feng Yuan said angrily. Feng Zihan sighed. Now, her grandfather had already lost his mind a little. The 3 disciples also looked at each other. Who would purposely injure themselves? Was this Feng Yuan crazy today? But this kind of thing they absolutely did not dare to say it out. Feng Yuan looked at the 3 of them and asked, "Is there a witness to prove that you were in the Sky Dragon Sea?" Witness? The 3 of them could not help but be annoyed in their hearts. If it were not because the people standing in front of them were Feng Yuan and Feng Zihan, they would definitely fly off the handle on the spot. It was simply inexplicable. The 3 of us have always been together, we can prove each other. As for the other witnesses, if Lord Hallmaster does not believe, you can personally go to the Sky Dragon Sea to ask. Because during this period of experience many people have seen us. The 3 of them held back their anger and said respectfully, "Have you eaten the guts of a leopard? You actually dare to make this old man go to the Sky Dragon Sea personally. Do you know that your current attitude is already enough to give this old man a reason to kill you on the spot?" Feng Yuan shouted. "Disciple knows his mistake, Lord Hallmaster, please spare our lives." The 3 of them quivered and hurriedly knelt on the ground, begging. Feng Zijuan also hurriedly advised, "Grandfather, you are a little too anxious now, calm down." "Shut up." Feng Yuan completely did not listen, looked at the 3 of them and said, Stand to the side for this old man. Without this old man's permission, you are not allowed to take half a step away. Yes. The three of them nodded, hurriedly got up and ran to the side of the sky stairway, standing there respectfully. Next, a few more batches of disciples came and were stopped at the bottom of the sky stairway. Like the three of them, they were stopped for no reason, and their hearts were extremely puzzled. But after all, it was Feng Yuan. Even if they had resentment in their hearts, they did not dare to show it. Not long after, Shangguan Fenglan brought Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang, and finally arrived at the sky stairway. As soon as she saw the situation at the top of the mountain, Shangguan Fenglan knew what was going on. And Feng Zijuan was also surprised in his heart. Why would Zhang Haoyan and Mu Tianyang be together with Shangguan Fenglan? Those disciples who were stopped at the bottom of the sky stairway were also stunned. And Feng Yuan, the moment he saw Qin Feiyang, a strong killing intent emerged in his eyes. Feeling Feng Yuan's killing intent, Feng Zihan's eyelids twitched, and he transmitted his voice, "Grandfather, Shangguan Fenglan is here, calm down." It was fine if Feng Zihan did not say it, but when he said it, Feng Yuan's eyes immediately surged with hostility. Shangguan Fenglan brought Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang to land in front of the sky stairway, looked at those disciples and asked suspiciously, "Feng Yuan, what are you doing?" "Lord Hallmaster, we did not do anything wrong. But for some reason, we were stopped here by Hallmaster Feng Yuan." As soon as Shangguan Fenglan spoke, those disciples were like grasping at straws, running to Shangguan Fenglan's side and chattering non-stop. "Stopped for no reason?" Shangguan Fenglan frowned. Feng Yuan said in a deep voice, "Shangguan Fenglan, why are you with Zhang Haoyan and Mu Tianyang?" Shangguan Fenglan was stunned and looked at Feng Yuan. "What do you mean by this? Do I need to report to you who I'm with?" Feng Yuan clenched his hands and shouted, "Today you must explain clearly." Shangguan Fenglan's eyes turned cold and she said, "Feng Yuan, don't go too far. I'm not a disciple of Nine Heavens Palace. You don't have the qualifications to control me. The dignified hall master of the law enforcement hall is actually with two drunk disciples. This doesn't make sense no matter how you look at it." Feng Yuan sneered. "It has something to do with you? Get out of my way." Shangguan Fenglan took a step forward and looked straight at Feng Yuan, a bone-piercing sharpness in her eyes. Boom! Feng Yuan also directly released his aura, confronting Shangguan Fenglan. Feng Zihan was burning with anxiety, and he bowed. "Hall Master, please calm down." "Calm down?" Shangguan Fenglan smiled coldly. "In Nine Heavens Palace, apart from the two palace masters, there are only 10 elders who dare to stop me like this. Moreover, Feng Yuan is only the hall master of the resource hall. Logically speaking, he doesn't have the authority to interrogate the disciples under him." Yes. We all know that the law enforcement hall has the authority to interrogate disciples. My grandfather is indeed in the wrong, but there is a reason for this. Please understand, hall master, Feng Zihan said. There is a reason for this. Shangguan Fenglan was suspicious. Yes. Feng Zihan nodded, pondered for a while and sighed. This matter is related to my little brother, Feng Zijuan. What do you mean? Shangguan Fenglan asked. Feng Zihan said. Zijuan was kidnapped. What? Feng Zijuan was kidnapped. When did this happen? Why is there no news at all? The disciples surrounding Shangguan Fenglan were all shocked. Shangguan Fenglan also revealed a look of disbelief, frowning. Isn't Feng Zijuan always in Nine Heavens Palace? How could he be kidnapped? Moreover, such a big matter. It's impossible for there to be no news at all. Feng Zihan turned to look at Feng Yuan and said, Grandfather, give me that letter. Feng Yuan stared at the drunk Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, There's no need to think, this matter must have something to do with him. Feng Zihan's face changed and secretly said, Grandfather, there's no evidence, don't talk nonsense. Feng Yuan shouted, Other than Zhang Haoyan, who in Nine Heavens Palace has such guts? Who's calling me? Qin Feiyang suddenly quivered, raised his head and scanned the surroundings, his eyes full of confusion. Finally, he suddenly stared at Feng Zihan and laughed. Isn't this senior sister Zihan? Why have you come to Yulan Tower? Come, let's have a few drinks. Shangguan Fenglan's face darkened. Feng Zihan couldn't help but frown. Calling Mu Tianyang. Quickly answer me, where are you? It's not over yet, why did you run away? Qin Feiyong called out. I'm behind you. Mu Tianyang grabbed onto Qin Feiyong's shoulder and rested his chin on Qin Feiyong's shoulder. He also looked at Feng Zihan with drunken eyes and said, Yes, yes, yes. It's senior sister Zihan, fortunately. No, it's a pleasure to meet you. Do you want to have a few drinks? Wait, where are we? This doesn't seem to be the Yulan restaurant. Brother Jiang, you wouldn't have taken me to a brothel while I was drunk, right? Mu Tianyang hugged onto Qin Feiyong's arm and looked around in a drunken stupor, laughing extremely wretchedly. Brothel. Shangguan Fenglan turned to look at Qin Feiyong and Feng Zihan, her eyes extremely terrifying. What nonsense were they talking about? This was the Jiutian Palace, how could they call it a brothel? The most important thing was that if this was a brothel, then wasn't she the same as a prostitute? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She raised her hand and slapped Qin Feiyong and Feng Zihan on the back of their heads. The two immediately lay on the ground, unconscious. Feng Zihan was also extremely speechless. How much wine did they have to drink to be like this? Chapter 2067. Looking at Feng Yuan and Qin Feiyong lying on the ground, he was about to go mad with anger. He hated Qin Feiyong to the bone, but now he was drunk to this extent. What was going on? Feng Zihan calmed himself down and looked at Feng Yuan. Grandfather, now is not the time to act on impulse. Quickly take out the letter. Feng Yuan took a deep breath and took out the letter. Feng Zihan took it and handed it to Shangguan Fenglan with both hands. Shangguan Fenglan took the letter and read it carefully. The disciples behind her also stood on their tiptoes and looked at it curiously. He really was kidnapped, Shangguan Fenglan murmured. According to my grandfather, this letter was sent to the resource hall by someone. To be able to enter the resource hall to send a letter, it must be someone from our Empyrean Palace. Previously, my grandfather was invited to the west gate of Sky Dragon City to trade, but the two who kidnapped my brother went back on their word after receiving the white tiger blood essence. That's why my grandfather and I are here to check the disciples who came back, Feng Zihan explained. I see. Shangguan Fenglan sighed. I am the hallmaster of Empyrean Palace's law enforcement hall. I can't escape the blame for such a thing happening in Empyrean Palace, but you should have told me about it immediately. We couldn't do anything about it. It's written clearly that if anyone dares to spread it, they will be killed. Feng Zihan said. Understandable. Shangguan Fenglan nodded with a smile. But Zhang Haoyan and Qin Feiyong really have nothing to do with this matter. They have been in Yulan Pavilion since the evening and have never left my sight. Hallmaster, may I ask why you were with them in Yulan Pavilion? Feng Zihan was suspicious. To tell you the truth, I was ordered by the first elder to investigate their origins. And this time, I invited them to Yulan Pavilion to get them drunk so that they would tell the truth. But I didn't expect them to be so drunk. Shangguan Fenglan smiled bitterly. Feng Zihan asked, did they tell you where they came from? Yes. Shangguan Fenglan just nodded and didn't say anything else. She returned the letter to Feng Zihan. Then what are their origins? Feng Zihan was curious. Shangguan Fenglan raised her eyebrows and said, Zihan, as the first on the heaven list, you should know what to ask and what not to ask. Disciple knows his mistake. Feng Zihan hurriedly bowed. I'm fine. Shangguan Fenglan waved her hand. She looked at Feng Yuan and said, don't worry. I will also help to deal with Feng Zijuan's matter. What help? This is the responsibility of the law enforcement hall. Feng Yuan said furiously. I don't deny it. But you didn't tell me right away. I can completely ignore a situation like this. Shangguan Fenglan snorted. Feng Yuan was furious. Grandfather. Feng Zihan scolded and thought to himself, I know you're anxious, but you can't treat Shangguan Fenglan with such an attitude. Feng Yuan clenched his fists. He still felt that this matter had something to do with Qin Feiyong, but he couldn't do anything without evidence. Shangguan Fenglan didn't say anything more to Feng Yuan. She grabbed Qin Feiyong and looked at Feng Zihan and said, you can ask but don't kill the innocent. After I send them back, I'll send someone to help you. Yes. Feng Zihan responded respectfully. Persuade your grandfather again. After Shangguan Fenglan finished speaking, she glanced at the motionless white-haired old man who was sitting cross-legged beside the stairway to heaven. Then she led Qin Feiyong and the other two to pass by Feng Yuan and quickly disappeared up the stairway to heaven. You guys go back too. Feng Zijuan looked at the disciples who were stopped before. Thank you, senior sister Zihan. The group of people said gratefully and swarmed up the stairway to heaven. Feng Yuan turned to look at Shangguan Fenglan and said in a deep voice, Zihan, go and keep an eye on Zhang Haoyan for me. Grandfather. Shangguan Fenglan has already testified. Why are you still suspecting them? Feng Zihan frowned. Feng Yuan said gloomily, who knows if Shangguan Fenglan is with them? Grandfather. Feng Zihan's expression changed. How could he say such a thing? Whoosh! Just as Feng Yuan's voice fell, the motionless white-haired old man suddenly opened his eyes and two cold lights surged out. Whether it was Feng Zihan or Feng Yuan, they felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar and couldn't help but feel cold all over. Feng Zihan hurried to the white-haired old man and bowed, Senior, my grandfather didn't do it on purpose. Please don't be angry. The white-haired old man glanced at Feng Zihan and the cold light in his eyes gradually dissipated. He then slowly closed his eyes. Feng Zihan heaved a sigh of relief. Feng Yuan was also scared. The disciples of Nine Heavens Palace basically didn't know this old man's identity and thought that he was purely a gatekeeper. But Feng Yuan, as the hall master of the resource hall, knew this old man's identity like the back of his hand. Could be said that, if this old man made a move, even the first elder wouldn't dare to stop him. First Sacred Peak. Cave Abode Number 1. After Shangguan Fenglan entered the cave abode, she threw Qin Feiyong and Mu Tianyang to the ground. The two people who were originally unconscious immediately jumped up with a wail of anguish. The drunkenness on their faces had also disappeared. Actually, they weren't drunk at all. They were just pretending. Qin Feiyong rubbed his butt and said, Lord Hallmaster, do you want to take our lives? No matter what, they are perfect war gods. Will they die from a fall? Shangguan Fenglan rolled her eyes, then sized up the two of them and said, I found that you guys really have a talent for acting. You flatter me. Qin Feiyong and Mu Tianyang looked at each other and hurriedly smiled. Are you guys acting with me too? Shangguan Fenglan looked at the two of them with ill intentions. No. The two of them waved their hands repeatedly, extremely terrified. It's best if you don't. Shangguan Fenglan snorted coldly and said, I'll go arrange it. You guys should also hurry up and prepare. When I come back, I'll start refining pills. You really want to send someone to assist Feng Yuan? Qin Feiyong was surprised. I still have to do it on the surface. After all, my law enforcement hall exists to maintain the order of the Nine Heavens Palace. After Shangguan Fenglan finished speaking, she turned around and walked out quickly. After Shangguan Fenglan left, Mu Tianyang waved his hand and closed the cave's stone door. He smiled and said, I really didn't expect it to go so smoothly. Qin Feiyong said, This is also because of the Black Tortoise realm. That's true. Mu Tianyang nodded and reminded. Then Feng Zijuan, you must remember to get rid of him. I know. When the time comes, I will send the corpse to Feng Yuan. Qin Feiyong sneered. Ugh. Mu Tianyang was stunned. What a cruel guy. Dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. So fast? The two of them looked at each other and then opened the stone door. They were immediately stunned. They originally thought it was Shangguan Fenglan, but it turned out to be a young man standing at the door. Brother Jiang. The young man raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyong. His face was full of stubble and his hair was messy. There was also a smell of alcohol on his body, mixed with a stench. His expression was also extremely haggard. Qin Feiyong glanced at the young man and said with a faint smile, Come in. The young man was Gongzi Feng. Gongzi Feng walked into the cave and closed the stone door behind him. Qin Feiyong frowned and said, How long has it been since you took a bath? Gongzi Feng was stunned. He lowered his head and looked at himself. He smiled bitterly and said, I've embarrassed myself in front of Brother Jiang. Then he looked at Mu Tianyang and said, Brother Mu is also here. Mu Tianyang nodded. Qin Feiyong pointed to the seat and said, Sit. No need. Gongzi Feng shook his head and glanced at Mu Tianyang. He lowered his head and pondered. Qin Feiyong said, "What do you want to know?" After a long time, Gong Zifeng raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyong, saying, "Is it convenient to talk? Just say it." Qin Feiyong said. Gong Zifeng said, "I'm here to ask if Feng Zijuan's kidnapping has anything to do with Brother Jiang." Qin Feiyong was not surprised at all, because he really couldn't think of any other reason why Gong Zifeng came to him. This person's position is not stable. We can't tell him. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. "I know." Qin Feiyong secretly responded. "Back then, when I was still the emperor of the Tianyang Empire, I had a harem of 3,000 women, each of whom was devastatingly beautiful, but the one I liked the most was a maid who served me. She was very sensible and very good at comforting people. Every time I encountered trouble, she was the one who counseled me. Slowly I fell in love with her. At that time I wanted to let her enter the harem several times, give her a status and be with me openly, but she was unwilling. She said that there was too much intrigue in the harem, and she didn't like that kind of life. As long as she could accompany me, she would be satisfied. I didn't force her. That was the best period of my life, but it didn't last long. Then one day, she left the imperial palace to go home to visit her family. Unfortunately, she was killed on the way." Mu Tianyang sighed. Qin Feiyong said in surprise, "I didn't expect a tyrant like you to have such a gentle side." In this world, who doesn't have a gentle side? Mu Tianyang shook his head and said with a smile. Qin Feiyong said, "So when you saw Shan Mei, you fell in love with her?" "Yes." Mu Tianyang nodded. Qin Feiyong said, "Then you must hate me very much now." "Of course. If it weren't for you and the inner demons, she wouldn't have died," Mu Tianyang said, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Qin Feiyong sneered. "But you have to know that if it weren't for me, you would have been smashed to pieces." "Yes. The fact that you saved me will never be erased. But that's that. I won't let Shan Mei's death go just like that," Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, "As long as you don't target the people around me, I don't care how you treat me. Don't worry, I'm not that despicable. But it's hard to say about Guosweki." Mu Tianyang smiled mockingly. "If anyone dares to hurt the people around me, I will send them to hell." Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with killing intent. Mu Tianyang looked at him deeply and said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. Hurry up and take out the furnace and fire. Get ready to start refining." Qin Feiyong nodded, entered the castle, and carefully studied the refining process and details of the 4 symbols infinite divine pill. Then, he left the castle with the netherworld devil flame and the azure phoenix cauldron and entered the refining room. "Open the furnace and refine the pills," Mu Tianyang urged somewhat anxiously. Not waiting for Shangguan Fenglan? Qin Feiyong was taken aback and asked, "Why wait for her?" Mu Tianyang pursed his lips. "I don't dare." She said to wait for her. If she comes back and sees that we have refined the pill, she will definitely fly into a rage. I can't bear the anger of this woman. Qin Feiyong shook his head. "Ah, when did you Qin Feiyong get scared?" Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise, as if he had discovered a new continent. People under the eaves have to bow their heads. Let's wait for her to come back. Qin Feiyong sighed, took out 4 kinds of blood essence and the infinite divine fruit, and placed them one by one on the refining table. About half an hour passed. Shangguan Fenglan finally came to the cave residence. Qin Feiyong closed the stone door, stood in front of the furnace and closed his eyes. Shangguan Fenglan glanced at Qin Feiyong, then looked at Mu Tianyang and said, "He really knows how to refine pills?" "Of course. He is an alchemy genius in our area," Mu Tianyang said proudly. "An alchemy genius? I really can't tell." Shangguan Fenglan shook her head and asked, "What about you?" "Me?" Mu Tianyang was taken aback and said with a smile, "Does..." A moment later, Qin Feiyong slowly opened his eyes, and his whole person had entered the state of heart as still as water. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, a wave of mind power emerged. "What? This mind power?" Shangguan Fenglan was immediately dumbfounded. Mu Tianyang was also a little surprised and said to himself, "His mind power has reached at least level 50 or 60. Level 50 or 60 mind power." Shangguan Fenglan was shocked. Even in the Nine Heavens Palace, it was rare to see someone with such high mental strength. Chapter 2068. She had really underestimated this person. Not only was he smart, his talent was terrifying, even his mental strength was terrifying. Even in Jiuqian Palace, he would be a monstrous figure. Suddenly, Shangguan Fenglan seemed to have thought of something. She looked at Mu Tianyang and asked, "Do you know what's going on with his cultivation?" Cultivation? Mu Tianyang was stunned. I remember when he first entered Jiuqian Palace, he was only a low-level war god. But how long has it been? He actually broke through to perfect war god. And Jiang Rushuang, she also broke through to advanced war god at an outrageous speed. Shangguan Fenglan said. So that's what you're asking? Mu Tianyang nodded in realization and laughed secretly. This question, I'll let him answer you personally later. Shangguan Fenglan raised her eyebrows, looking extremely displeased. Mu Tianyang didn't say anything else and focused on Qin Feiyang. Shangguan Fenglan asked suspiciously, "Aren't you going to help? What can I help with?" Mu Tianyang was puzzled. "These pills were jointly researched by you. Without your help, can he refine them?" Shangguan Fenglan asked. "No need. I believe he can handle it alone." Mu Tianyang smiled secretly. While the two were talking, Qin Feiyang had already awakened the nether devil flame. The bottom of the azure phoenix cauldron was burning red. Qin Feiyang first used his mental strength to roll up a Wuji immortal fruit and put it into the cauldron. Under the high temperature, the Wuji immortal fruit gradually melted. Not long after, a drop of spirit liquid the size of a pellet appeared. It was crystal clear and flickered with a hazy glow. Among them there was a strong fruity fragrance. Following closely, after adjusting the temperature, Qin Feiyang began to refine the blood essence of the 4 divine beasts one by one. "It's that simple?" Shangguan Fenglan was surprised. "Simple?" Mu Tianyang was stunned and shook his head speechlessly. "Look at his forehead." Shangguan Fenglan looked at Qin Feiyang's forehead and found that it was already drenched in sweat. Mu Tianyang curiously transmitted his voice. "Dare I ask the hall master, do you know how to refine pills?" Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. "No wonder." Mu Tianyang mumbled. This was what a layman was saying. Concocting pills looked very simple. You just have to throw the medicinal ingredients into the pill furnace and extract the spiritual liquid to condense it into a pill. But in fact, whether it was the details, the steps, the heat, or the mentality, there could not be the slightest mistake. Especially for pills like the 4 symbols infinite divine pellet, the slightest mistake would cause it to be scrapped or even explode. Therefore, when refining this kind of pill, only the person who refined it would know how hard and how difficult it was. As for Qin Feiyang, the reason why he was able to refine the spiritual liquid so smoothly was that he had already memorized the pill recipe. The pill formulas in the pill codex were not only comprehensive, they were even more detailed and specific than the pill formulas that were circulated outside. It was no exaggeration to say that even an alchemist with poor aptitude could become a genius in alchemy after obtaining the alchemy scripture. On the other hand, as for refining pills, Qin Feiyang had long been practiced to the point of perfection. Just what level of perfection had he reached? It could be said that, now that he had refined the pill once, he could refine it again even with his eyes closed in the future. Moreover, he was also very familiar with the nether devil flame. An alchemist who wanted to refine a good pill not only needed a strong mental force and a high-level pill furnace, but also had to be one with the pill fire. And Qin Feiyang had been using the nether devil flame to refine pills all these years. Over the years he had already formed an inseparable bond with the nether devil flame. It was as if it was a part of his body. More importantly, it was his state of mind. His state of mind was stable enough. When refining pills, as long as no one deliberately disturbed him, he would not be distracted at all. About a moment later, the blood essence of the 4 divine beasts had also been refined, and now there was not the slightest smell of blood. Not only was there no smell of blood, but there was also a delicate fragrance. Moreover, there was no innate murderous aura and hostility of fierce beasts. It looked like 4 blood diamonds, blooming with brilliant brilliance. The next step was to fuse the spiritual liquid. He was very careful. After all, whether it was the everlasting divine fruit or the blood essence of the 4 divine beasts, They were all very difficult to find. If it was accidentally scrapped, it would be a huge loss. Soon a blood-red light swept out of the Qinghuan cauldron like lightning. Qin Feiyong ignored the sweat on his forehead and hurriedly reached out to grab it. Mu Tianyang and Shangguan Fenglan were also at the same time, quickly walking to Qin Feiyong's side. Qin Feiyong glanced at the two of them and slowly opened his hand. A medicinal pill the size of a finger immediately appeared. The pill was blood-red in color. The 9 pill patterns were like 9 halos, emitting a dazzling divine light. What? 9 pill patterns? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. Mu Tianyang's face was full of ecstasy. The 4 symbols everlasting divine pill was the same as the 9 transformation dragon blood pill. The more pill patterns there were, the higher the success rate. In other words, 9 pill patterns, there was a full 90% success rate. With such a high success rate, unless one was extremely unlucky, it was impossible to fail. Let me try first? Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyong and asked. His heart was very eager. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded and threw the pill to Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang grabbed the pill and directly put it into his mouth without saying a word. Immediately, a majestic energy exploded in his body like a volcanic eruption. It came quickly and fiercely. Caught off guard, Mu Tianyang couldn't help but wail. The skin on his body was cracked and blood was flowing out. This was a feeling he had never felt before. That majestic feeling was like an avalanche that drowned him in an instant. He didn't even have time to prepare. What? When Qin Feiyong saw this scene, he also turned pale on the spot. The energy of this 4 symbols infinite divine pellet was a little too terrifying. Even the skin of a perfect war god could crack? Fortunately, he didn't take this pill just now. If not, the purple gold dragon blood would be exposed to Shangguan Fenglan's eyes without any preparation. Shangguan Fenglan also jumped in fright. She condensed a divine power enchantment and imprisoned Mu Tianyang. The movement couldn't be too big. Otherwise it would arouse the suspicion of people with ulterior motives. Boom! At the same time, Mu Tianyang's aura was also rising crazily with an uncontrollable momentum. His aura is becoming stronger again? Could it be that this pill can really let a war god break through his cultivation? Shangguan Fenglan stared at Mu Tianyang with anticipation in her eyes. Qin Feiyong was the same. Although he had long known about the existence of the 4 symbols everlasting divine pill, this was the first time he had seen someone take it with his own eyes. He wanted to know if this pill had such a heaven-defying effect. His aura continued to soar. And the cracks on Mu Tianyang's skin also became more and more bigger and bigger. At this moment, he had become a bloody man, his face full of pain. The ground was also soaked in blood. Looking at Mu Tianyang's miserable appearance, Shangguan Fenglan turned her head to look at Qin Feiyong and asked worriedly, Zhang Haotian, will this kind of pill that you guys are researching really work? Qin Feiyong thought for a moment and said, it should work. Should? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. Such a vague answer, didn't it mean that this kid didn't have full confidence at all? If he didn't have full confidence, then wasn't this Mu Tianyang using his life to test the pill? This, in order to research the pill, he really didn't care about his life. Normally, in this kind of situation, if it was anyone else, they would definitely first find someone else or a fierce beast to test the pill. They were really 2 out-and-out lunatics. But she didn't know that Qin Feiyong and Mu Tianyang weren't testing the pill at all. The 4 symbols infinite divine pill could originally allow a war god to break through a small realm. It was just that there was a possibility of failure. Rumble. Mu Tianyang's aura had already soared to the peak of perfect war god. Only 1 step away from perfect war god. However, it was also at this moment that Mu Tianyang's skyrocketing aura came to an abrupt stop. The cracks on his skin, the pain on his face also slowly calmed down. This, Qin Feiyong was shocked. Mu Tianyang also froze on the spot. It actually failed? This was 9 pill patterns, the success rate was as high as 90%, and it actually failed? Brother Qin, it seems that I'm that kind of unlucky person. Mu Tianyang secretly smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyong pursed his lips and secretly said, if you still fail with a 90% chance, then it's not bad luck, it's bad character. Mu Tianyang helplessly took out a healing pill, threw it into his mouth and said, refine another one. We agreed beforehand you only need 3. Now that you've taken 1, there are only 2 left. Qin Feiyong said. Mu Tianyong looked at Qin Feiyong in shock and secretly said, "You're a man, do you have to be so stingy?" "It's not a matter of being stingy. It's a principle. Since we've already agreed beforehand, then naturally we have to keep our promise," Qin Feiyong said indifferently. Mu Tianyong was extremely angry, but he quickly compromised and with a pleading tone he said, "Just give me one more, I promise if I fail again I won't ask you for it." Qin Feiyong was a little hesitant. "You see, we've been together for so long. I've never begged you so humbly," Mu Tianyong secretly said. "All right. Looking at your pitiful look, I'll give you one more, but it won't happen again," Qin Feiyong said. "It won't happen again, it won't happen again," Mu Tianyong said repeatedly, overjoyed. Shangguan Fenglan looked at the two and frowned. "What are you guys doing in secret? Is there anything that I can't know?" No. I'm just comforting him in secret." Qin Feiyong quickly waved his hand. Yes. Mu Tianyong also nodded repeatedly. Looking at the expressions of the two, Shangguan Fenglan sneered. This was obviously an excuse to brush her off. She looked at the two and asked, "Do you want to continue?" "Of course," Qin Feiyong said without hesitation. "That's right. We're not the kind of people who give up halfway." Mu Tianyong followed with a determined light in his eyes. "All right. Then I'll see if you can succeed." After Shangguan Fenglan finished speaking, she retreated to the side. There was a hint of ridicule in her eyes, as if she was mocking Qin Feiyong for being too naive. Qin Feiyong and Mu Tianyong didn't notice. But even if they did, with their current temperament they wouldn't care. Qin Feiyong turned and walked to the front of the pill furnace, took out another Wuji divine fruit and 4 drops of essence blood. The same process, the same refining method. A moment later, the second Wuji divine pill was out. Qin Feiyong grabbed the pill and handed it to Mu Tianyong. "I know, I don't need you to remind me." Mu Tianyong was extremely angry. If Qin Feiyong wasn't here to watch the joke, he wouldn't be so angry. But it just had to happen in front of Qin Feiyong. To him this was like a humiliation. It made him very embarrassed and lose face. Chapter 2069. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. He took out the herbs and started refining pills. Not long after, the third 4 symbols infinite divine pill was born. Mu Tianyong stepped forward, grabbed the pill and stuffed it into his mouth. "Damn God, if you have the ability, continue to torture me?" He roared secretly and sat cross-legged on the ground. Terrifying energy crazily attacked his physical body. Fresh blood flowed on the ground like a stream. Boom! Finally, his aura once again reached the peak of a perfect war god. At this moment he was terrified again. "God, can you stop tormenting me? I beg you. I don't want to be a joke in the future." If he couldn't succeed with 3 pills in a row, Qin Feiyong would probably laugh his head off. It seemed that his pleading was useful. His aura didn't stop and continued to soar. Boom! All of a sudden, a muffled sound exploded in Mu Tianyong's body, as if some kind of shackle had been broken. After this loud sound, an even more terrifying aura rushed out from his body. Perfect war god. Finally success. Feeling his current cultivation, he couldn't help but want to cry. This damn god was deliberately tormenting him. Qin Feiyong also had a look of disdain. This person's character was so bad that he had no friends. However, at this moment, Shangguan Fenglan's face was full of shock. It could actually help a war god break through his cultivation? This was unbelievable. They could even research such pills. How amazing was the potential of these two people? Qin Feiyong looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said with a smile, "Lord Temple Master, do you have anything to say now?" Shangguan Fenglan glanced at Qin Feiyong and then at Mu Tianyong. She said lightly, "Don't be too proud. There are many people in this world who are more capable than you." "I don't deny that. But may I ask, who can research such pills?" Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. Shangguan Fenglan was speechless for a moment. Qin Feiyong knew when to stop. He smiled and said, "You can tell Shangguan Shou now and ask her to seriously consider the deal with us. What happened between the two of you has nothing to do with me. I just want to know, how did your cultivations improve so quickly?" Shangguan Fenglan said. This, to be honest, I was already a perfect war god before the exam, Qin Feiyang said. Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. Actually, I just wanted to keep a low profile. That's why I hid some of my cultivation base. But when I entered the Nine Heavens Palace, I realized that there were plenty of people stronger than me. There was no need for me to hide my cultivation. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Shangguan Fenglan observed Qin Feiyang's expression and couldn't find any trace of pretense. Thinking about it again, it seemed that this was the only explanation that made sense. After all, no matter how heaven-defying one's talent was, it was impossible to break through 2 minor realms consecutively in such a short time. Alright, you guys go ahead. Also, try to keep a low profile in the future, Shangguan Fenglan said. Yes. Wait. No. If we keep a low profile, how can we deal with Feng Yuan? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Shangguan Fenglan's face darkened. She said angrily, "Can you find a reason to refute everything I say?" No. Don't be angry. How about this, except for dealing with Feng Yuan, we will try not to make trouble. Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good and quickly said with a smile, "Not try but absolutely not allowed." Shangguan Fenglan said, Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly. Shangguan Fenglan glared at Qin Feiyang fiercely, then turned and left in a huff. Qin Feiyang touched his nose and looked at Shangguan Fenglan's back, his eyes flickering. After Shangguan Fenglan left the cave, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the stone door closed. Then he glanced at Mu Tianyang, who was stabilizing his realm, took out 2 sets of medicinal materials and continued to refine the 4 symbols infinite divine pill. Soon, 2 pills came out of the furnace. Mu Tianyang also stood up from the ground and looked at Qin Feiyang with some dissatisfaction. He snorted coldly and said, "I'd like to see if you can succeed in one try." Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and frowned. "My character shouldn't be as bad as yours. Whether it's bad or not, how will you know if you don't try?" Mu Tianyang was very unhappy now. Qin Feiyang laughed and threw one of the 4 symbols infinite divine pills to Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang caught it in his hand, looked down, and then looked at Qin Feiyang, as if he had something to say. Stop. Don't say anything." Qin Feiyang quickly stretched out his hand. Mu Tianyang was angry and said, "I haven't even opened my mouth, and you know what I'm going to say? Don't I know you? Don't you just want me to give you a few more pills?" Qin Feiyang sneered. Mu Tianyang was stunned and smiled embarrassedly. "It seems that the person who knows me best is you. Stop flattering. I've already given you 1 more pill, don't even think about the rest," Qin Feiyang coldly said. Then he placed the 4 symbols everlasting divine pellet into his mouth. Mu Tianyang shook his head helplessly and condensed a divine power barrier, enveloping Qin Feiyang inside. Qin Feiyang looked at the divine power barrier and muttered, "It's better to go to the Black Tortoise world," because Mu Tianyang was 1 small realm higher than him. Mu Tianyang's divine power barrier might not be able to seal his aura. Finished. He waved his hand and brought Mu Tianyang with him, descending directly into the sky above the Devil's Land. Boom! Immediately, a terrifying aura rushed out from his body. Just like Mu Tianyang before, the energy of the 4 symbols infinite divine pill almost burst his body. Purple gold dragon blood poured down like a waterfall, dyeing the sky red. After a while, boom! His aura smoothly broke through to the peak of the perfect war god realm. But there were no signs of failure. It soared crazily all the way to the perfect war god realm. Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. He actually succeeded in breaking through in 1 go? This luck really made people jealous. I already said, this is not a matter of luck, it's a matter of character. Thus, in the future, it's best that you do less outrageous things. Even if it's not for yourself, it's best that you accumulate more virtue for your descendants. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, looked at Mu Tianyang and laughed mockingly. Mu Tianyang's face was full of disdain and said, "Cultivation we have already broken through. The next step is to open the door of potential. Do you have the herbs for the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill? You still have the nerve to talk about this? I was the one who set my eyes on that black dragon first," Qin Feiyang said. "It has something to do with me?" Mu Tianyang asked back. "Alright, it has nothing to do with you. Then I want to see who will help you refine the Dragon Soul Primordial Spirit Pill. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang's expression froze and said with a smile, let's talk, let's talk. I only have one dragon soul, I definitely can't give it to you. But I found 2 dragon god flowers, I can give you one. Qin Feiyang was stunned and quickly said, don't fool me. Why would I fool you? Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes, took out a palm-sized jade box from the universe ring, and threw it to Qin Feiyang and said, see for yourself. Qin Feiyang opened the jade box suspiciously, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Inside the jade box, there was a small purple flower lying quietly. It was about half the size of a baby's fist, and there were a total of 12 small petals. The shape was very similar to a hibiscus, and each small petal was emitting a hazy divine light, looking very beautiful. It's really the flower of the dragon god, Qin Feiyang murmured, looked up at Mu Tianyang and asked, where did you find this? Mu Tianyang said, I got it by accident when I looted the treasure vaults of a few big families. Qin Feiyang smiled. It seems that sometimes, there are some benefits to doing some evil things. Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows and said, why do I feel like you're scolding me? No. This time, I definitely don't mean to scold you, I'm praising you. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said with a smile, since it's for me, then I won't stand on ceremony, thank you. You're welcome, you're welcome. Mu Tianyang laughed. Qin Feiyang looked at the smile on Mu Tianyang's face, and suddenly felt uneasy. This Mu Tianyang, he knew too well, it was impossible for him to be so kind-hearted. Aren't I still short of the primordial spirit lotus? Help me think of a way. Mu Tianyang smiled. Sure enough. Qin Feiyang muttered. For a person who only cared about profits, giving others things must have some ulterior motives. A man's words carry enormous weight. Since you said you'll accept it, you can't go back on your words. Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes, pondered for a while and said, I'll go out and wash the bloodstains on my body first. I'll go too. Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang released his perception, found a pool, and descended above the pool with Mu Tianyang. The two jumped directly into the pool, a chill in their hearts. Mu Tianyang found a stone, lay in the water, looked at the night sky and sighed. I didn't expect that we would cooperate again. I didn't want to cooperate with you at all. Qin Feiyang also sat on a stone, looked at Mu Tianyang, and said lightly while washing the bloodstains on his body, don't be so heartless. Thinking back, except for the last time in the miracle, we have always been like enemies, like friends but not like enemies. In fact, I personally think that you and I are quite fated. Mu Tianyang smiled. Even if we are fated, it's an ill-fated relationship. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Mu Tianyang shook his head and smiled, then fell silent, enjoying the rare peace. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Tianyang, and also leaned on the edge of the pool, looking at the night sky without saying a word. Time flew. The sun rose slowly from the horizon. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath, jumped out of the pool and changed into clean clothes, then looked at Mu Tianyang and said, it's morning, don't lie down, get up and contact Shangguanqiu. I didn't establish a contract with her. Mu Tianyang shook his head, and with a wave of his hand, Mu Qing appeared on the shore out of thin air. Mu Tianyang took out the 4 symbols infinite divine elixir from the interspatial ring, threw it to Mu Qing and said, this elixir is for you and contact Shangguanqiu. Thank you, ancestor. Mu Qing took the 4 symbols infinite divine elixir, her face full of gratitude, and then took out the image crystal. As for the everlasting divine fruit and the blood essence of the 4 divine beasts, I also believe that other than your treasure pavilion, there should be quite a few treasures in the resource hall. Even if we don't have it, 9 Heavens Palace will definitely be able to get it. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Shangguanqiu was annoyed. He was obviously threatening her. If she didn't agree to split the profits 50-50, she would have to work with the Great Elder. If she really worked with the Great Elder, the treasure pavilion would suffer a great loss. Is there really no room for negotiation? 50-60 is fine too. After all, the treasure pavilion has contributed more than you. Shangguanqiu asked. Judging from her tone, she had already compromised. Qin Feiyang said, if I take 60 and you take 40, then I have no objections. You wish. Shang Guanqiu's face was full of disdain. After pondering for a while, she gritted her teeth and said, "Fine, 50-50 it is. But I have a request." "What request?" Qin Feiyang asked. "In the future, you can only give me the 4 symbols infinite divine pellet. In other words, except for me, no one else is allowed to give it to you, especially the higher-ups of 9 Heavens Palace," Shang Guanqiu said. "Of course." Qin Feiyang nodded. "All right. I'll immediately contact the treasure pavilions in East Hill, West Desert, and South Wilderness to prepare the herbs. I'll send you a message when the time comes," Shang Guanqiu said. Qin Feiyang said in surprise, "You can directly contact the treasure pavilions in East Hill, West Desert, and South Wilderness? Of course. Not only 9 Heavens Palace, but the treasure pavilion also has a teleportation altar that can directly teleport you there," Shang Guanqiu said. "I see." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. After thinking for a while, he said, "I need a few more herbs. Help me prepare them." Shang Guanqiu was stunned. His eyes lit up as he asked, "Are you going to research some new elixir?" "A new elixir? How can it be so easy to research it?" Qin Feiyang was speechless. Shang Guanqiu smiled embarrassedly and said, "Then what do you need?" Qin Feiyang said, "The dragon god's flower, the primordial spirit lotus, and the dragon soul." "What? The dragon soul?" Shang Guanqiu was shocked. "Yes, the divine soul of a dragon. Remember, it must be a real divine dragon. In addition, its cultivation must be at least a perfected god of war," Qin Feiyang said. "A perfected god of war divine dragon?" Shang Guanqiu was stunned. There were very few divine dragons in this world. Even if they could find one, no one would be willing to kill it. "Of course, I'm not asking for it for free. I'll buy it from you according to the market price," Qin Feiyang said. "It's not about whether it's for free or not. The primordial spirit lotus and the flower of the dragon god are fine, but the dragon soul..." Shang Guanqiu furrowed his beautiful brows and hesitated. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "I believe the treasure pavilion has the ability to do so. I can't promise you this now. I'll have to ask my master and the deputy pavilion master first." Shang Guanqiu pondered for a while and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Shang Guanqiu said, "Then I'll go and prepare the herbs for the 4 symbols infinite divine pill." "Okay." Qin Feiyang said. "Okay, wait for my news." After Shang Guanqiu finished speaking, the virtual image quickly disappeared. Mu Qing also put away the image crystal. Mu Tianyang laughed and said, "We'll split it 50-50. We'll make a lot of money this time." Qin Feiyang smiled and lowered his head. He pondered for a while and said, "If only the demon ancestor was here." "Why do you say that?" Mu Tianyang was suspicious. "If he's here, then I can find a chance to kill the demonic dragon beside him," Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing looked at each other. This guy was indeed ruthless. Fortunately, the demon ancestor and the demonic dragon were not here. Otherwise, they would be so angry that smoke would come out of their nostrils. Qin Feiyang shook his head regretfully and said to Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing, "I've given you the elixirs. You can go back first." Mu Tianyang smiled and said, "About going to the castle to cultivate? There's no room for discussion." Qin Feiyang directly interrupted Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang could not help but be disappointed. He sighed and said, "It seems that we can only stay in the Crimson Gold Divine Pagoda for a while. Although the rule of time in the Crimson Gold Divine Pagoda was not as good as the castle, it was better than nothing." Qin Feiyang asked, "So, you're going to challenge the people on the earth roll?" "What else? I wanted to challenge the people on the heaven roll and make a lot of money. But according to my investigation, the people on the heaven roll are all too strong. I'm not sure. If you're willing to let me go to the castle, it won't be so troublesome," Mu Tianyang said helplessly. Qin Feiyang said, "What about the resource hall? Don't forget, we agreed that we would enter the resource hall together. These are 2 unrelated things. If we go to the resource hall, we'll only go there to work. Normally, we'll still be in our own cave abode." Mu Tianyang said, "I see. I thought that after entering the resource hall, the cave abode would be arranged in the resource hall." Qin Feiyang said, "There are no cave abodes in the resource hall. Forget it, I won't beg you." There's no time like the present. I'll challenge the number 1 person on the earth roll now and take down the 10th floor of the Crimson Gold Divine Pagoda. Mu Tianyang sneered, his entire body exuding a sense of confidence. Qin Feiyong did not doubt this point. With Mu Tianyang's methods, not to mention that he had broken through to the perfect war god realm, even when he was still a perfect war god realm, he was enough to shake the disciples on the earth roll. No, it was not shaking. It was crushing. Mu Tianyang had this strength. How about it? Do you want to take a gamble? Mu Tianyang encouraged. Take a gamble? If you challenge a disciple on the heaven roll, then Feng Yuan might let Jin Fatso go to the battlefield to take a gamble. But if it's someone on the earth roll, that's a business that's guaranteed to lose. Why would Feng Yuan do it? Moreover, Feng Zijuan's life and death are unknown. Feng Yuan is not in the mood. Today's gamble is definitely not going to happen. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said. Then, he brought Mu Tianyang and appeared in the alchemy room. After Mu Tianyang and his companion left, Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. He kept the Nether Devil Flame and the Azure Phoenix Cauldron into the ancient castle. Then he entered the Black Tortoise world and descended in the sky above the desert. Below, Feng Zijuan was like a dead dog, lying in the boundary on the verge of death. But when he saw Qin Feiyong, he immediately shuddered and quickly got up. Zhang Haoyan, why are you here? That was because Qin Feiyong had not changed his appearance yet. So when he saw Qin Feiyong appear here, he was very surprised. He did not know that the person who kidnapped him was Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong smiled playfully and looked at Feng Zijuan in surprise. Isn't this senior brother Feng Zijuan? It's me. Feng Zijuan nodded. What's going on with you? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. It's a long story. Junior brother Jiang, quickly save me. I'll give you 100 million spirit stones. No, I'll give you 1 billion. Feng Zijuan not only did not realize that the person who kidnapped him was Qin Feiyong, but instead looked as if he had seen a life-saving straw. His face was full of pleading. 1 billion spirit stones? Qin Feiyong was stunned and said with a smile, this is really attractive, but I may not be able to open this boundary. I believe you can open it. Feng Zijuan said anxiously. I'll try. Qin Feiyong nodded, stepped in front of the boundary, and punched the boundary. However, the barrier didn't even tremble. Use more strength. Feng Zijuan urged. Don't worry. Qin Feiyong hurriedly comforted him. Divine power rolled out, and he punched the boundary again, but there was still no movement. It's completely over. Feng Zijuan collapsed on the ground. Looking at Feng Zijuan's desperate expression, Qin Feiyong couldn't help but want to laugh. But he still wanted to tease him for a while, so he held back his laughter and asked suspiciously, Senior brother, did you offend someone? Chapter 2071. I don't know either. During this period of time it seems that except for you, I haven't offended anyone? Feng Zijuan shook his head and said. Qin Feiyong said. Then why are you imprisoned here? I really don't know. At that time I was cultivating in the cave when 2 people suddenly appeared. Not only did they destroy my sea of qi, but they also locked me up here. I don't know where the hell is this place? I can't get any help from the heavens and earth. Feng Zijuan said in despair. Qin Feiyong glanced around and said, this place seems to be a space divine object. Think so too. How about this, you help me inform my grandfather. My grandfather will definitely have a way. Feng Zijuan looked at Qin Feiyong and said. Qin Feiyong said helplessly, this is a space divine object, I can't get out. That's true. Feng Zijuan lowered his head, looking depressed. Wait. He suddenly realized that something was wrong. Since this was a space divine object, then how did this person come in? Suddenly, he looked up and stared at Qin Feiyong, his face full of surprise. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Feng Zijuan said in a deep voice, why are you here? Are you an accomplice of the 2 kidnappers? Accomplice? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Everyone knows that if you want to enter a space divine object, you have to get the permission of the owner. Now that you're here, if you're not their accomplice, then what are you? Feng Zijuan said angrily. Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly. looked at Feng Zijuan and said, I'm really not an accomplice, I'm the mastermind because I kidnapped you. What? Feng Zijuan suddenly stood up. I thought you could think of this, but I seem to have overestimated your IQ. You actually asked me for help? Qin Feiyong could no longer hold back and laughed. In this situation, anyone with a little brain would think that the other party might be the one who kidnapped him. And this person asked him for help at the first moment. This IQ was really touching. You're the mastermind? Are you the one who kidnapped me? But I saw the two people who kidnapped me with my own eyes. It wasn't you? Feng Zijuan said in disbelief. Qin Feiyong looked at the sky speechlessly and said, could it be that you don't know that there is something called the illusory form pill in this world? When Feng Zijuan heard this, his body began to tremble. His face was filled with fear. What do you want to do? What do you think I want to do? Qin Feiyong smiled. Plop! As soon as Qin Feiyong's voice fell, Feng Zijuan knelt on the ground and begged, Junior Marshal Brother Jiang, I was wrong in the past. Please be magnanimous and don't argue with me, okay? I'll apologize to you and kowtow to you. As long as you let me go, I'll give you a huge sum of compensation. Qin Feiyong asked curiously, then tell me, how much is the compensation? I'll give you whatever you want. I'll give you as much as you want. And I swear that I won't play any tricks. Just do me a favor and let me go. In the future, I'll never find trouble with you again. Even if I see you, I'll immediately take a detour. Feng Zijuan said. Give me whatever I want, Qin Feiyong murmured and said with a smile, this condition is really tempting, but unfortunately, I've already revealed my true identity. If he really let Feng Zijuan go now, the Great Elder and Shangguan Fenglan would directly kill him without Feng Yuan's help. Because he kidnapped Feng Zijuan in the Zhoutian Palace, this was a huge crime. Even if Shangguan Fenglan and the Great Elder wanted to use him to deal with Feng Yuan, they wouldn't dare to absolve him. It's okay. I won't tell others that you kidnapped me, including my grandfather and the others. Please believe me. Feng Zijuan looked at Qin Feiyong pleadingly. Believe you? Qin Feiyong sneered and stepped into the barrier. You should be hiding a divine artifact in your body, right? You. Feng Zijuan's face turned pale. There really is. Qin Feiyong muttered. Although Feng Zijuan didn't say it clearly, his current reaction was enough to explain everything. Qin Feiyong released his spiritual will and poured it into Feng Zijuan's body. Soon, a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. In Feng Zijuan's qi, there were actually two divine artifacts floating. A 3-foot-long sword and a white armor. And judging from the aura, it was a peak-level divine artifact. Not bad, not bad. 2 peak-level divine artifact. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, and then changed the topic with a shocking sharpness. He shouted, come out immediately, or I will destroy your body and destroy your soul. A peak-level divine artifact had already given birth to a spirit. And for a divine artifact of this level, the intelligence of the spirit was no less than that of a human. So no matter who said it, they could understand. Not long after Qin Feiyong's voice fell, 2 divine artifacts flew out from Feng Zijuan's qi. Very good. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. Seeing this, Feng Zijuan hurriedly said, Junior Brother Jiang, let me go, I will give you these 2 divine artifacts. Do I still need you to give it to me now? Qin Feiyong's face was full of disdain. He left the enchantment and took out the image crystal. Buzz. Not long after, a shadow appeared. Big Brother Jiang. This shadow was Gongzi Feng. Looking at Gongzi Feng's shadow, Feng Zijuan's face was full of disbelief. How was this Gongzi Feng related to Zhang Haotian? And from the way Gongzi Feng addressed Zhang Haotian and the expression he showed, it seemed that they were not familiar with each other? Qin Feiyong said, come over now. Now. Didn't you say at night? Gongzi Feng said. Because his back was facing Feng Zijuan, Gongzi Feng didn't know that Feng Zijuan was here. Now. But be careful, don't be followed. Qin Feiyong said. Okay, I'll be right there. Gongzi Feng nodded. After turning off the image crystal, he immediately disguised himself and flew towards the first sacred peak. Feng Zijuan also finally came back to his senses, staring at Qin Feiyong and asked, what is your relationship with my brother? He is your brother? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Feng Zijuan said angrily, Nonsense, the entire Nine Heavens Palace knows that he is my brother, Qin Feiyong said. But they don't know that Gong Zifeng is not your biological brother. What? Feng Zijuan looked at Qin Feiyong dumbfounded. Qin Feiyong said, "Do you want to ask why I know so much?" Feng Zijuan nodded instinctively. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, "Of course, Gong Zifeng must have told me." Feng Zijuan roared. "He even told you this? What is your relationship?" "My relationship with him." Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said, "I don't know yet, it depends on his choice." Choice. Feng Zijuan frowned. Qin Feiyong didn't say anything more and appeared in the cave. A moment later. Dong! There was a knock on the door. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the cave stone door opened, and an ordinary-looking young man in black walked in quickly. It was Gong Zifeng. After the cave stone door closed, he took a facial restoration pill and restored his original appearance. Qin Feiyong stepped forward and said indifferently, "I'll take you to see someone." "Who?" Gong Zifeng was suspicious. Qin Feiyong didn't answer. He brought Gong Zifeng and directly descended in front of the barrier. When he saw Feng Zijuan inside the barrier, Gong Zifeng's expression suddenly changed. Qin Feiyong said, "Yes, the one who kidnapped him is me." Gong Zifeng was stunned, and when he came back to his senses, he looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Are you crazy? You actually kidnapped him in Jiuqian Palace. Do you know how big of an impact this matter will have on you? Also, why did you bring me to see him? Now that he sees us together, won't he know our relationship? He might even mistakenly think that I'm your accomplice. At that time, Feng Yuan and Feng Wenhai will definitely not let me go." Gong Zifeng was burning with anxiety. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, "As long as you're willing, no one will know that he was kidnapped by me, and it won't implicate you." "As long as I'm willing?" Gong Zifeng frowned, his face full of suspicion. Qin Feiyong said, "It seems that your ability to understand is still not good enough. I'll make it clear, as long as you kill him now, kill him." Without waiting for Qin Feiyong to finish, Gong Zifeng's body suddenly trembled. There was no need for Qin Feiyong to say it, he understood. "Don't you hate him? Didn't this person often bully you in the past? Now that the opportunity is in front of you, what are you hesitating for?" Qin Feiyong said. "But..." Gong Zifeng hesitated. "Third brother, you have to think carefully. Although we don't have the same mother, we're still born from the same father. The same blood flows in our bodies. I'm your biological big brother. You can't be instigated by him." Feng Zijuan finally understood Qin Feiyong's intention, and hurriedly looked at Gong Zifeng and called out. Gong Zifeng looked at Feng Zijuan, as if it was difficult for him to make a decision. "Of course. I won't force you. If you don't kill him, I can let you and your brother go, but you have to keep the kidnapping a secret," Qin Feiyong said indifferently. Hearing this, Feng Zijuan's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly said, "Third brother, quickly tell him that you don't want to kill me and we can leave." Gong Zifeng stuttered, his face full of struggle. "Third brother. In the past, big sister, grandpa, father, mother, and I were prejudiced against you, but now I've reflected on it. I promise you that we'll be a family in the future, and I'll treat you like my own younger brother. Haven't you always wanted to give your mother a status? When we go back, I'll immediately persuade grandpa to give your mother a status, and let her bones be buried in our Feng family cemetery," Feng Zijuan said. Gong Zifeng's eyes trembled and he asked, "Really? I'm not lying to you, really?" Feng Zijuan nodded. Gong Zifeng turned to look at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Big brother Jiang, what do you think I should do? Decide for yourself." Qin Feiyong's face was indifferent, as if it had nothing to do with him. Gong Zifeng looked at Feng Zijuan again. Feng Zijuan was anxious and he said, "Third brother, don't be foolish." Feng family. Gong Zifeng clenched his fists, and the scenes of the past kept appearing in his mind, and a hint of anger gradually appeared between his brows. Chapter 2072. Seeing the change in Gong Zifeng's expression, Feng Zijuan could not help but panic. He had never taken Gong Zifeng seriously in the past. Gong Zifeng even used to bully him. However, he never thought his life and death would end up in Gong Zifeng's hands one day. Third brother, we're family. Feng Zijuan blurted out anxiously. Shut up. Gong Zifeng roared furiously. He stared at Feng Zijuan with a ferocious expression and said, Ask yourself, have you ever treated me as your family? Feng Zijuan panicked even more. He said, It's all in the past. Why are you still holding on to it? I swear I'll treat you as my younger brother. It's all in the past. No. It's not all in the past. You can let it go, but I can't let it go, let alone forget it. Even now, I still remember the despair and pain my mother felt before she died. And it's all because of Feng Wenhai and the Feng clan. The sins you've committed will never be forgiven. Gong Zifeng roared. His body was filled with resentment while his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Feng Zijuan's body trembled. His face turned pale. What could he do to escape this calamity? Grandfather, father, mother, sister. Come and save me, quick. Gong Zifeng turned to Qin Feiyang and said murderously, Brother Jiang, let me in. As you wish. Qin Feiyang smiled and waved his hand. The barrier formed by the force of the rules of order immediately turned into chains that shot forward like poisonous snakes. They firmly bound Feng Zijuan's limbs, preventing him from moving. Gong Zifeng glanced at Feng Zijuan. Initially, I still had some hope for Feng Wenhai and the rest of you. After all, you're my family. That's why I pleaded for leniency for Feng Wenhai in the square, and asked Big Brother Jiang to let him go. I thought it would move you, but in the end I realized how wrong I was. I just want to ask you, is it wrong for me to clear my mother's name? I only have a small wish. Why can't you fulfill it? You people are simply too cold-blooded. I'm thoroughly disappointed in all of you. Don't worry, you won't be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs because soon, Feng Wenhai and the others will accompany you. Gong Zifeng sneered as he walked towards Feng Zijuan. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like a mad beast. No, third brother. These matters can all be discussed. We were wrong in the past. We didn't consider your feelings. Feng Zijuan shook his head in panic, feeling extremely desperate. It's too late. It's too late. I've had enough of these years of humiliation. Gong Zifeng slowly shook his head and walked in front of Feng Zijuan. With a clanging sound, a dagger appeared, flickering with a cold light. No, I beg you, Feng Zijuan roared. Go down and accompany my mother in death. Gong Zifeng smiled sinisterly. He raised his dagger and stabbed it into Feng Zijuan's head. A shrill scream resounded in the air above the desert. Men Jin Yunchang roared. The first to rush over were the inner sect disciples below the Deacon Hall. What? Feng Zijuan was actually killed. Who on earth is so daring to not only kidnap Feng Zijuan, but also kill him and even deliberately send the corpse in front of Jin Yunchang? As more and more disciples came, the place became noisier. Everyone's heart was filled with disbelief. It was one thing to not destroy the corpse after killing someone, but to deliberately send it here. Wasn't this a clear provocation to the Feng family? What a terrifying method, what terrifying courage. Zijuan soon, accompanied by a roar, Feng Yuan and Feng Zihan landed on the square with a murderous aura. Looking at Feng Zijuan's corpse, their faces were full of pain. Tell me, who is it? Feng Yuan suddenly landed in front of Jin Yunchang and grabbed his clothes. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared. I don't know. Jin Yunchang shook his head. Trash, trash. Feng Yuan directly slapped Jin Yunchang's face. Jin Yunchang was sent flying on the spot, spitting blood from his mouth. His teeth were all broken, but he did not dare to complain. Swish. Suddenly, another figure landed on the square. It was Lunatic. Looking at Feng Zijuan's corpse, Lunatic immediately frowned slightly. Feng Zihan shouted, Lunatic, what are you doing as an inner sect elder? Someone committed murder in the inner sect and you don't even know. Lunatic said angrily, Bitch, don't bite me. Let me tell you, this matter is not over. As an inner sect elder, you can't escape the blame for not protecting your disciples. Feng Zihan snorted coldly. If you had informed me at the first moment, I would indeed be responsible for Feng Zijuan's death. But you didn't do so, so it has nothing to do with me. Hurry up and get the corpse away, don't dirty my territory. Lunatic said with a face of disdain. Hearing Lunatic's words, Feng Yuan was furious and roared, Little bastard, you've gone too far. Bang! Immediately after, He took a step forward and slapped Lunatic with his palm. Swish. But at the same time, Shangguan Fenglan appeared in front of Lunatic out of thin air, raised her slender hand and slapped. Boom! Feng Yuan was forced back a few steps on the spot. Shangguan Fenglan's face was also slightly pale. Obviously, the strength of the two was about the same. Feng Yuan, I can understand your current mood, but what Lunatic said makes sense. After all, you didn't inform us at the first moment, so we didn't have time to investigate. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Feng Yuan and said expressionlessly, Yes, it's our fault for not informing you in time. What about now? When can you find out the real murderer for me? If you can't find out, you don't deserve to be an intersect elder and the law enforcement hall master. Feng Yuan shouted. It's not up to you to decide whether we deserve it or not. He was truly blinded by greed. He did not even think of this point. With a wave of his hand, Qin Feiyang sent the dragon-luring sword and Tianluo battle armor to the castle for Zhao Tailai and the others to distribute among themselves. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang looked at Gong Zifeng and reminded him, Go back first. During this period of time, don't do anything and try not to contact me. Gong Zifeng was stunned and said in surprise, You mean Feng Yuan and the others might suspect me? I won't rule out this possibility. In short, be careful in the future. Qin Feiyang said. All right. Gong Zifeng nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought Gong Zifeng to the living room of the cave. After watching Gong Zifeng leave, he sat on the chair and lowered his head to ponder. Feng Zijuan was dead. Who was the next target? Feng Zihan? He was too strong. Feng Yuan? Even stronger than Feng Zihan. That left only Feng Wenhai and Yin Hui. Wait a minute. He had been in the Nine Heaven Palace for so long and many things had happened, but why hadn't this Yin Hui appeared yet? However, Feng Wenhai and Yin Hui's strength was definitely not to be underestimated. It seemed that he could rest for a period of time and cultivate well. He would think about it after he became stronger. Dong! Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Qin Feiyang was stunned. With a wave of his hand, the stone door of the cave opened, and he saw Hui standing at the door with a solemn face. What's wrong with you? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Hui entered the cave and closed the stone door behind him, asking, Did you kill Feng Zijuan? What did you say? I don't understand. Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Don't pretend. This matter must have something to do with you. This time, didn't you make too much of a fuss? If you want to kill Feng Zijuan, I won't object, but you can't do it in the Nine Heaven Palace. Do you know how big of an impact this will have on the Nine Heaven Palace? Also, Jin Yunchang is now fully investigating this matter, and he will probably find us soon. Hui was annoyed. I also want to kill him outside the Nine Heaven Palace, but he has been holed up in the cave and I can't find a chance. Qin Feiyang was helpless. You can wait for the chance. Hui rolled his eyes and sat opposite Qin Feiyang saying, Let me tell you, if this matter is exposed, don't drag me down with you. I still want to live for a few more years. Do you think with our current relationship I still need to drag you down with me? Qin Feiyang laughed mockingly. Hui's expression stiffened. That was right. If it was really exposed, he would definitely become the target of the hunt. I'm really going to die because of you. Hui glared at Qin Feiyang and asked, Does Shangguan Fenglan know about this matter? Not only does she know, but she also participated. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's good. Hui breathed a sigh of relief and said, But then again, what do you want the white tiger blood essence for? With Shangguan Fenglan's protection, there shouldn't be a big problem. Qin Feiyang sized up Hui and said, This is your real purpose for coming to find me? Hui smiled embarrassedly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said with a smile, Shangguan Fenglan also knows. You can ask her, and you can also get close to her while you're at it. You know me the best. Hui chuckled. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched, saying, You really have feelings for her? Can this matter be joked about? Hui said. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and said, Then you have to be careful. This woman is not a good person. Don't end up not only not getting her, but also being used by her. What do you think I am? Am I that stupid? Hui was unhappy. Fine, do as you see fit. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Anyway, this woman, I have to get her. Hui chuckled, looking extremely wretched, but suddenly he was stunned. He looked up and down Qin Feiyong for a moment and said in surprise, "What's wrong with your cultivation?" "This." Qin Feiyong hesitated. Hui said, "Don't tell me that you're hiding your cultivation again." No. In the past, I was indeed hiding at the perfect war god realm. Didn't I get a lot of soul stones now? That's why I broke through to the perfect war god realm. Qin Feiyong laughed. Who would believe you? But it's not important. Tell me, for a woman like Shangguan Fenglan, how can I capture her heart in the shortest time? Hui asked. How would I know? Besides, this Shangguan Fenglan has status and strength. Think about it carefully, she doesn't lack anything at all. Qin Feiyong said. Wrong. She lacks the love of a man, she lacks the nourishment of love. Forget it, telling you this is like playing the lute to a cow. I'd better go and find her directly. Hui looked at Qin Feiyong with disdain, then got up and ran out in a hurry. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. He even dared to provoke a woman like Shangguan Fenglan. He had to admit that this guy was really bold. That afternoon, Mu Tianyang really went to challenge the number one person on the Earth board. As Qin Feiyong expected, Jean Fatso didn't come to open the bet. And the result of the challenge was also unquestionable. Mu Tianyang used his overwhelming strength to directly kill the number one person on the Earth board. This battle also made his name known in the Ninth Heaven Palace, making him a popular genius. That night, Jin Yunchang also came to the cave to interrogate Qin Feiyong. Without any evidence, Qin Feiyong wasn't afraid at all and casually fooled Jin Yunchang. As for the Great Elder and Shangguan Fenglan, they acted as if they didn't know about this matter and never came to find Qin Feiyong. And the next morning, another piece of news spread. The recruitment of the Resource Palace was delayed by half a month. When Qin Feiyong received this news, he wasn't particularly surprised. After all, Feng Zijuan had died. Feng Yuan definitely had to deal with his funeral first. Time passed day by day just like that. Qin Feiyong was in the ancient castle, concentrating on breaking through to the half-step Divine Lord realm. Breaking through to the half-step Divine Lord realm wasn't a small matter. After breaking through to the Perfection War God realm, Qin Feiyong's refining speed increased by a lot. Now, he could refine about 150 stones a day. But one had to know. To break through to the half-step Divine Lord realm from the Perfection War God realm, one had to refine 100 million spirit stones. 100 million. After careful calculation, to refine 100 million spirit stones, it would take at least 1800 years. Even in the ancient castle, one day was equivalent to a year, so it would take more than 1800 days. After conversion, it would be a full 5 years. In other words, even if he cultivated non-stop in the ancient castle, it would still take him 5 years to refine all 100 million spirit stones. 5 years, what kind of concept was this? For other disciples, 5 years was too short. It would pass in the blink of an eye. After all, compared to more than 1800 years, 5 years wasn't even a fraction. But for Qin Feiyong, 5 years was too long. He regretted taking the 4 symbols infinite divine pill, because it was too early. He should have waited until he broke through to the Perfection War God realm before taking it. After all, to break through from the Perfection War God realm to the Perfection War God realm, he only needed to refine 10 million spirit stones. The time needed was much shorter. About 270 days, less than a year. In other words, if he didn't take the 4 symbols infinite divine pill now, he would first break through to the Perfection War God realm in less than a year. If he took the 4 symbols infinite divine pill, he would be able to break through to the half-step Divine Lord realm in one go. This would save a lot of time. But there was nothing he could do. Who asked Feng Yuan to raise the requirements to enter the Resource Palace? If he didn't break through to the Perfection War God realm, he wouldn't be able to enter the Resource Palace. Compared to the Resource Palace, cultivation was only secondary. After all, the spirit vein was controlled by the Resource Palace. Moreover, Shangguan Fenglan and the Great Elder were also forcing him to enter the Resource Palace. However, with his example, Zhao Tailai, the Mermaid Princess and the others would wait until they broke through to the Perfection War God realm before taking the 4 symbols infinite divine pill. At that time they would naturally break through to the half-step Divine Lord realm before Qin Feiyang. Chapter 2074. In the blink of an eye. Half a month passed. The people and beasts in the ancient castle had all broken through to perfect war god level. In other words, now, except for Dan Wangkai, no one was below perfect war god level. Everyone was working hard. They wanted to step into perfect war god level as soon as possible so that they could take the four symbols infinite divine pill. And outside, during this period of time there was a lot of trouble. They couldn't find the culprit for a long time, and Feng Yuan had already made a scene in front of the Great Elder. And he would make a scene every 2 or 3 days. What could the Great Elder do? He could only try his best to comfort him. Frenzy was still the same as before, leaving everything to Jin Yunchang. His daily life was very comfortable. This morning, Qin Feiyang was also forced to come out of seclusion. On one hand, Mu Qing came looking for him. On the other hand, today was the registration day of the resource hall. Inside the cave, Mu Qing took out 4 jade bottles and a Qingkuan bag. The 4 jade bottles were the size of half a baby's fist, and they were filled with half a bottle of blood. Inside the Qingkuan bag, there were hundreds of jade boxes. So many. Qin Feiyang looked at the jade bottles and jade boxes and frowned. Yes. 100 everlasting divine fruits and 100 drops of blood essence of the 4 divine beasts. Shangguanqiu asked me to tell you that she hopes to give it to her tonight, and then she will auction it tomorrow. Mu Qing said. Tonight there's still time. But didn't we agree that you will refine the elixirs? Qin Feiyang said. Isn't there no alchemy fire and alchemy furnace? And you also know that refining these elixirs requires at least level 50 mental strength. My ancestor and I don't have enough mental strength. The most important thing is that Shangguanqiu specifically asked you to refine it. Mu Qing said. Qin Feiyang frowned. It was indeed recorded in the pill scripture that one needed level 50 mental strength to refine these elixirs. But Shangguanqiu nodded and asked him to refine it. Wasn't this a bit strange? Why did she ask me to refine it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. She said that the pills you concocted had more pill veins than the pills we concocted. Naturally, the effects would be better than the pills we concocted. Naturally, the price would be higher. Mu Qing said. I see. Qin Feiyang was suddenly enlightened. Then he sized up Mu Qing and asked curiously, I know about your spiritual power, but what level has Mu Tianyang's spiritual power reached? Mu Qing said, Ancestor's spiritual power will soon reach level 50. Very soon. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked in surprise, could it be that he also has a secret technique like the soul refining technique? Of course. And it's not just my ancestors. I have one too. Mu Qing smiled proudly. You have one too. Qin Feiyang had an astonished look on his face as he asked, where did you guys get it? Of course he didn't need it, but Dan Wangkai had to have it. Otherwise, even if Dan Wangkai broke through to the war god realm, he wouldn't be able to help him refine these pills, because his spiritual power was far from enough. Mu Qing said, the martial arts treasury of the Ninth Heaven Palace. The martial arts treasury? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You still don't know? Mu Qing looked at him in shock. Qin Feiyang shook his head. You are indeed a talent. All the inner disciples have the right to enter the martial arts treasury once. There are all kinds of divine skills in the martial arts treasury, including secret soul techniques like the soul refining technique. Mu Qing said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and asked, are there many secret soul techniques in the martial arts treasury? Definitely not many. It all depends on chance and luck. My ancestor went in 6 times and only got 2 secret soul techniques. Mu Qing said. 6 times? Didn't you say that you can only go in once? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The inner disciples only have 1 chance, but the disciples on the earth board have 5 chances. It adds up to 6 times. Mu Qing said. The disciples on the earth board have such benefits? Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, what about me, a disciple of the Saint Peak? The disciples of the Saint Peak seem to have 2 chances, and the disciples on the heaven board have more chances. They can go in 10 times. Mu Qing was full of envy and then said, as for the outer disciples, they don't even have 1 chance. 2 chances. Mu Tianyang used 6 times. With my character 2 times is enough. Qin Feiyang muttered. Do you really think you have a good character? Mu Qing rolled her eyes. She had never seen such a shameless person. Of course. The 4 symbols infinite divine elixir is the best proof. Qin Feiyang smiled proudly and waved his hand. Go back first and come back tonight to pick up the elixir. You must go to the treasure pavilion tomorrow at the auction and see the 4 symbols infinite divine elixir with your own eyes, in case Shangguanqiu plays tricks. Mu Qing said lightly, my ancestor has already told me about this. You don't have to worry about it. Wait, I don't really trust you either. How about this, I'll ask Fire Lotus to go with you tomorrow. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and looked at Mu Qing with a smile. Suit yourself. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Mu Qing snorted and turned to leave quickly. The martial arts treasury. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly. He got up and closed the stone door of the cave residence. Looking at the jade bottle and Qiankuan bag on the table, he shook his head helplessly. To be honest, the last thing he wanted to do now was to refine elixirs. Wait a minute. Mu Qing had left, and Shangguanqiu was also not here. Then he could totally do something. For example, he could refine 100 pills, give Shangguanqiu 90 pills, and then say that the other 10 pills were wasted? Good idea. 10 4 symbols infinite divine pellets was a huge fortune. He was immediately energized. He grabbed the jade bottle and Qiankuan bag and walked into the alchemy room. Then he took out the green phoenix cauldron and the netherworld demonic flame and started to refine elixirs. He did not go to the ancient castle to refine elixirs because he did not want to disturb everyone's cultivation. Time passed quietly. At noon, 104 elephants infinite divine pills were finally out of the furnace. After refining for so long, Qin Feiyang could not take it anymore. This was because the 4 elephants infinite divine pills were not like the previous elixirs. Refining the 4 elephants infinite divine pills not only required high concentration throughout the entire process, but also consumed a lot of mental energy. So after half a day he was also quite tired. But fortunately, none of the pills were wasted. After resting for a while, he sent the green phoenix cauldron and the netherworld demonic flame into the ancient castle. Then he put away the 10 4 elephants infinite divine pills, put the remaining 90 pills into a jade box, and left the cave. Where are you going? Just in time. Hui came back from outside and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Martial arts treasury, Qin Feiyang said. Martial arts treasury? Hui was slightly stunned and said, I don't think I've been there before. Why don't we go together? Sure. It just so happens that I don't know where the martial arts treasury is, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The martial arts treasury is even deeper, Hui said with a smile. Then he turned around and flew into the depths. Qin Feiyang followed closely beside him. Qin Feiyang observed Hui along the way. This person would laugh foolishly from time to time. Qin Feiyang asked doubtfully, looking at you, have you made any progress? What progress? Hui was stunned and turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, nonsense, of course, it's about you and Shangguan Fenglan. Her. Hui suddenly smiled, glanced around and whispered, to be honest, there is really a little progress. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Half a month ago, after I left your place, didn't I go to find her? At first, I thought that she would still treat me coldly like before. But guess what happened? Hui laughed. Anyway, it's impossible for her to have deep feelings for you. Qin Feiyang said lightly. That's definitely impossible. But her attitude has changed for the better. At least when we are alone, she is not as cold as before. Sometimes I can even see a little smile. Hui said. Is that it? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Otherwise, Hui asked. I thought it was something else. Her attitude has changed a little, and you are so happy. I am really convinced by you. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. What do you know? Feelings can't be rushed. You have to take it slowly. Now it's because the time is too short. As time passes, it will definitely get better and better. But, when Hui said this, he frowned again. But what? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Hui sighed deeply and said, she will ask a few questions about your situation from time to time. Ask me? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Don't you understand? She is using my mouth to fish out your details. Maybe her attitude has improved, because she wants to find out something from me. Hui sighed. Qin Feiyong said in shock, so you're saying that she's really using you? I don't know. But I am not stupid. When she asks questions that I shouldn't answer, I simply pretend to be stupid. Hui chuckled. Brilliant. Qin Feiyong gave him a thumbs up. Hui shook his head proudly. Then, as if he suddenly thought of something, he looked at Qin Feiyong and said, there is something that we need to discuss. What is it? Qin Feiyong was puzzled. Hui said, for Symbol's infinite divine pill. You already know? Qin Feiyong said. Hui said, when I went to find Shangguan Fenglan that day, she already told me. Okay, I will give you one. I don't have any more. Qin Feiyong said. Do I look like a greedy person to you? Hui glared at him with dissatisfaction. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. He took out a 4 Symbols infinite divine pill and threw it to Hui. Hui caught it in his hand, his eyes shining. 9 elixir veins. Amazing, amazing. Right. The registration for the resource hall is today. Are you going? Hui asked. Of course. But it's still early. Let's go to the martial arts treasury first and then register. Qin Feiyong said. Hui pondered for a moment and said, to tell you the truth, I also want to go. What are you going to do? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. You think you can covet the 9 Heavens Palace's soul vein? Hui snorted. Shoo. Qin Feiyong's face changed. He quickly covered Hui's mouth and looked around vigilantly. He said angrily, are you trying to kill me? Hui also realized that he had said something he shouldn't have. He quickly transmitted his voice, sorry, it was a slip of the tongue. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes and let go of his hand. He secretly said, Shangguan Fenglan should be the one who instigated you to go to the resource hall, right? Chapter 2075. I really can't hide anything from you. That's right. Originally, I didn't plan to go, but 2 days ago, when I went to find Shangguan Fenglan, she suddenly mentioned this matter and asked me to go with you. Actually, I know. She just wants me to monitor you. Hui said helplessly. So you agreed? You really value love over friendship. Qin Feiyong despised. How is that possible? Even if I listen to her, we are still good brothers. You can rest assured. I will never betray my brothers for a woman. Hui patted his chest as he solemnly vowed. Come on. In the future, it's better for me to keep a distance from you, lest I have to help you count the money when you betray me. Qin Feiyong said. I'm not happy with what you said. After being together for so long, have I ever betrayed you? Hui said angrily. Who knows what will happen in the future? Qin Feiyong said indifferently. Hui suddenly became annoyed. But at this moment, Qin Feiyong suddenly raised his eyebrows and turned to look at the mountains below. This sudden change caused Hui to be taken aback. He followed Qin Feiyang's gaze, but he didn't find anything in the mountains below. What's wrong? Hui was suspicious. I faintly feel hostility again. Qin Feiyong whispered. Hostility? Hui frowned and looked at the mountains below again. There was indeed nothing. Are you having an illusion? Impossible. This hostility is exactly the same as the last time we entered St. Peak, Qin Feiyong said. Hui was surprised. Could it be that someone is targeting you? I don't know. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Then you have to be careful in the future. Hui secretly warned. Qin Feiyong nodded and glanced at the mountains and rivers below. A glint flashed in his eyes. Then he smiled and said, let's go. The two continued to move forward. About 56 miles away from the St. Peak, there was a wide river. The river was calm and clear. And at a certain place beside the river, there was a black castle. The ancient castle was several hundred feet tall, like a huge mountain, and it exuded a majestic aura. On the gate of the ancient castle, there were 4 bold words carved into it. Martial Arts Treasury. The door was tightly shut. In front of the door there was a small square. The ground was covered with a layer of green bricks, and traces of weathering could be seen everywhere. In the center of the square, a black-clothed old man sat upright on the ground. His eyes were slightly closed as if he was recuperating from his injuries. Qin Feiyong and Qin Haodong landed on the square. This person is also one of the big shots of our Nine Heavens Palace. He is extremely strong and is in charge of guarding the martial arts treasury. As for his status, he is comparable to Feng Yuan and Shangguan Fenglan. Hua Yi transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyong's pupils contracted. An existence comparable to Feng Yuan and Shangguan Fenglan must not be underestimated. Disciple Hua Yi and disciple Zhang Haotian greet my lord. The two bowed. The black-clothed old man slowly opened his eyes. Looking at the two, a light flashed in his eyes as he asked, "Why have you come to the martial arts treasury?" Hua Yi respectfully said, "We want to enter the martial arts treasury." Identity token. The black-clothed old man said. The two took out their identity tokens. The black-clothed old man glanced at them and said, "You only have 2 chances. You can only choose 1 iron box each time. You can also choose 2 at a time, but you cannot enter the martial arts treasury in the future." Understood. The two nodded. Remember, you are not allowed to mess around in the martial arts treasury, and you are not allowed to steal. Otherwise, no matter who it is, you will be killed without mercy. The black-clothed old man said, "Disciple will remember." The two bowed. The black-clothed old man waved his hand and the martial arts treasury's gate slowly opened. He said, "Go in. The time limit is 1 hour." Qin Feiyong and Hua Yi took a deep breath and strode into the martial arts treasury. The time limit of 1 hour meant that they could only stay in the martial arts treasury for 1 hour. Once the time limit was up, they had to come out. As soon as the two entered the martial arts treasury, they were immediately dumbfounded. This martial arts treasury was at least thousands of feet in size. Inside, there were rows of iron shelves neatly arranged. And on the iron shelves there were countless black iron boxes. These iron boxes, regardless of size or appearance, were exactly the same. At a glance, it was unknown how many there were. Qin Feiyong walked to the front of an iron shelf and looked at the dozens of iron boxes on it. His eyes were full of curiosity. Just as he stretched out his hand and was about to grab one of the iron boxes, Hua Yi's face changed. He hurriedly stepped forward and stopped Qin Feiyong. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyong was stunned and looked at him puzzledly. "You can't take it randomly. Because once you pick it up, the martial arts treasury will automatically judge that you have chosen this iron box and will directly send you out," Hua Yi explained. Hearing this, Qin Feiyong quickly retracted his hand. "There is a full hour. There is no rush to choose. Let's take a look first." As Hua Yi walked, he glanced at the iron boxes on the shelf. "Can you use divine sense to peek?" Qin Feiyong looked for a while and asked. "You can try," Hua Yi said. "Let's try." Qin Feiyong released his divine sense and rushed towards the iron boxes around him. However, in the next moment he froze. These iron boxes were actually able to block the prying of divine sense. Naive. These iron boxes are all made of hidden soul stone. Divine sense can't peek at all. Hua Yi looked at Qin Feiyong with a sneer. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him and then frowned. "The same size, the same shape, and you don't need to use divine sense to peek at them. This is completely dependent on luck." It is dependent on luck. Inside these iron boxes, there are low-grade divine arts and perfect divine arts. It is said that there are even legendary divine arts, but it depends on whether you have the luck to get them. Hua Yi said. "Legendary divine art." Qin Feiyong's eyes lit up. So far, other than the 6-word divine art, the strongest divine art he had was the divine dragon art. Peak divine art. Of course, there were also 3,000 incarnations. However, these 3,000 incarnations were a bit special and couldn't be judged by ordinary levels. Time passed in a flash. Half an hour was almost up. The two of them had finished looking through the entire martial arts treasury. "I'm too lazy to come in again. I'll just choose 2 at a time." Hua Yi stopped in front of an iron shelf, glanced at the iron boxes on it, and shook his head. "It's all based on luck. It doesn't matter, just choose 2 at random." Finished. Hua Yi stretched out his hand and grabbed 2 iron boxes on the 4th row of the iron shelf. And immediately after, an invisible force emerged, and Hua Yi immediately disappeared in front of Qin Feiyong's eyes. Qin Feiyong frowned, retracted his gaze, and glanced at the surrounding iron shelves with a hesitant expression. Which iron box should I choose? If there were more opportunities it wouldn't matter. But now he only had 2 chances. Just as he was hesitating, the door of the martial arts treasury slowly opened. Didn't Huayi's 2 chances have been used up? Qin Feiyong suspiciously turned his head to look at the door, only to find that the person who came in was not Huayi, but a black-clothed youth. That person was about 1.8 meters tall, and his body was neither fat nor thin. His thick black hair draped over his back like a waterfall, and his whole body exuded an unfathomable aura. Qin Feiyong sized up the black-clothed youth. Why did he look so familiar? But he didn't think too much about it. After all, there wasn't much time left. Choosing an iron box was more important. He retracted his gaze and glanced at the surrounding iron shelves, unable to make a decision. The black-clothed youth only glanced at Qin Feiyong for a moment, and then wandered around the martial arts treasury. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not. The black-clothed youth slowly walked to Qin Feiyong's side, sized up the iron boxes on the iron shelves, and suddenly said, "Zhang Haoyan, let's make a bet." Make a bet? Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback. He turned his head to look at the black-clothed youth suspiciously and said, "Are you talking to me?" What was going on? He wanted to make a bet with him for no reason. Was he crazy? Yes. The black-clothed youth nodded, but did not turn his head. He continued to scan the iron boxes on the iron shelves. He really is crazy, Qin Feiyong secretly muttered, and shook his head. Not interested. Not interested, the black-clothed youth murmured and laughed. I didn't expect that even you, Zhang Haoyan, would not dare to do something. His words were filled with blatant mockery. What do you mean? Do I know you? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. You don't know me, but I know you. How about it? Do you dare to make a bet? The black-clothed youth said, still not turning his head. Are you here to pick a fight? Qin Feiyong was startled and asked, what are we betting on? We each choose an iron box, and see whose divine art is of a higher grade. As for the bet, it's our lives, the black-clothed youth said. What? Qin Feiyong was dumbfounded. He actually wanted to gamble with his life? Do I have a grudge against you? Other than a deep hatred, there was no other reason to make such a risky bet. That's none of your business. I'm just asking if you dare. The black-clothed youth said indifferently. I don't even know who you are. Why would I bet with you? Qin Feiyong finished speaking and looked away. He was not afraid, but because such a bet was meaningless. Is that all you have? The black-clothed youth's voice sounded again. Just as the voice sounded, Qin Feiyong's body stiffened. He felt that familiar hostility again. Could it be? He suddenly turned around and looked at the black-clothed youth, only to see that the black-clothed youth was staring at him at this moment. His eyes were full of hatred. The hostility I felt the last 2 times was really from you. Who are you? I don't think I've seen you before. Qin Feiyong said in a deep voice. The black-clothed youth said word by word. My name is Nye Kong, Nye Yun's elder brother, the eldest son of the Star River City Lord. Nye Kong. Qin Feiyong was shocked. No wonder he came to gamble with his life. It turned out that he was Nye Yun's elder brother. Obviously, this person wanted to avenge Nye Yun. But why did he choose to gamble with his life in such a way? Even he could not see through this person's cultivation. It was obvious that he was a monarch god expert. A divine lord-level powerhouse could totally formally issue a challenge to him. In this way, the chances of winning would be higher. And gambling like this was simply a matter of luck. Was there something wrong with this person's brain? Chapter 2076. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. You killed my brother and slaughtered everyone in my Nye family. If I don't kill you, I swear I'm not a man. Nye Kong coldly stared at Qin Feiyong. His expression was like that of a wild beast. Wait. It's true that I killed your brother, but the death of others has nothing to do with me. Qin Feiyong frowned. Besides you, who else could it be? Nye Kong said angrily. Your words are a bit unreasonable. Just because I killed your brother, you can't push the blame of the Nye family's destruction to me. Moreover, it was your brother who tried to assassinate me first. I was just defending myself. What's wrong with that? Qin Feiyang said. Nie Kong said angrily. Cut the crap, do you dare to bet or not? I won't bet. Qin Feiyang shook his head decisively. He wasn't so stupid to risk his life with this person. Seems that you're just a so-so. Nie Kong sneered. I'm wondering, why do you have to use this method to bet your life with me? Why don't you challenge me and have a fair fight on the battlefield? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. It was fine if Qin Feiyang didn't say so, but once he said so, Nie Kong was like a raging beast, roaring, with madman protecting you, do you think I dare to challenge you? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Now in Ninth Heaven Palace, who doesn't know that you're madman's man? If I challenge you, I'm afraid that before the battle even starts, I'll be charged with a groundless crime and die in his hands. After all, he's now an inner court elder and has the right to kill us inner court disciples. Nie Kong said helplessly. Qin Feiyang was speechless. Madman helped him because of the original agreement, but he didn't expect it to cause such an impact. In fact, it was a misunderstanding. Madman wouldn't help him in the future. However, such a misunderstanding was also good. With Madman's deterrence, it could save a lot of trouble. Are you a man or not? If you are, then bet with me. Nie Kong shouted. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. It seemed that if he didn't agree today, this person wouldn't give up. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, how about this? Let's change the stakes. It's better for both of us. What bet? Nie Kong asked. Qin Feiyang said, the loser has to run naked for 3 days in the inner and outer sanctum. All right. Nie Kong nodded and turned to look for the iron box. He really agreed. Qin Feiyang was speechless. One had to know. This was running naked for 3 days, not 3 laps. It could be said that it was more painful than death. Did she really hate him that much? What was done could not be undone. It was too late to regret. Qin Feiyang continued to scan the iron box. He had come to the martial arts treasury purely to try his luck and see if he could find a secret soul technique. However, he didn't expect things to turn out this way. This time he didn't dare to be careless. He didn't have the face to do something as shameful as running naked for 3 days. But the iron box could block the prying of the divine sense. How could he find it? Qin Feiyang, do you believe me? Suddenly, a faintly discernible voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. The Shadowless. Qin Feiyang's heart suddenly rejoiced and said without hesitation, of course I believe you. The Shadowless said. Then go to the left corner. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded, turned to look at Nie Kong, and walked to the left corner. In the corner, there were more than a dozen iron shelves, with a total of thousands of iron boxes densely packed. And then? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. The 3rd iron shelf on the right, the 6th row from left to right, the 5th iron box. The 2nd iron shelf on the left, the 3rd row from left to right, the 4th iron box. Take these 2 iron boxes and you can leave. Don't get me wrong. This time I helped you, not because of your bet, but purely because I want to use the martial arts treasury to improve your strength. In the future, don't make such a childish bet. The Shadowless said. Thank you. I will remember. Qin Feiyang said gratefully in his heart. Then he walked to the 3rd iron frame on the right. He looked at the 6th row and counted carefully. Then he grabbed the 5th iron box. Following closely, he took another step and instantly landed in front of the 2nd iron shelf on the left, grabbing the 4th iron box on the 3rd row. As soon as the 2 iron boxes were in his hands, the invisible force shrouded him. The next moment, he disappeared without a trace. So fast? Nie Kong saw this and frowned. Looking at the iron shelves around him, he finally gritted his teeth, grabbed an iron box, and was sent out of the martial arts treasury. Outside, on the square, when Qin Feiyang appeared, Hui was looking down at the 2 jade slips in his hand, his brows tightly knitted together. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 2 jade slips and looked at Hui with a smile. Looking at your expression, it seems like you didn't find the divine art you like? It's obvious. Tell me, why am I so unlucky? Not to mention the peak level divine art, the legendary level divine art, at least give me a perfect divine art, right? But these 2 divine arts are not even high-grade divine arts. Hui said angrily. Then what level of divine art is it? Mid-grade. Qin Feiyang asked. Hui shook his head. Ugh. Qin Feiyong was stunned and muttered, "Not even mid-grade, could it be a low-grade divine art?" Hui nodded bitterly. The corner of Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. This guy's character was too bad. He reckoned that he was comparable to Mu Tianyang. Sigh. Hui sighed helplessly and looked up at Qin Feiyong, coldly snorting. "Don't gloat, maybe the divine art you took out is worse than mine." "Shut your crow's mouth." Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. This was a matter of face, he absolutely couldn't make a mistake. Of course, the Shadowless definitely wouldn't lie to him. But he couldn't relax. What if Nie Kong's luck was heaven-defying and found a divine art that was better than his? Swish. This time, Nie Kong also appeared on the square. Looking at Qin Feiyong, he directly opened the iron box in his hand, and a dazzling divine light suddenly emerged. Looking at the divine light, Nie Kong's face suddenly had a trace of joy. Looking at the situation, its level is definitely not low. Hui looked at Nie Kong with envy. Nie Kong took out the jade slip and sank his divine sense into it. The joy on his face was even stronger. "What level of divine art is it?" Qin Feiyong muttered. A moment later, Nie Kong withdrew his divine sense and respectfully handed the iron box to the old man in black, then turned to look at Qin Feiyong saying, "Perfect divine art, you can verify it yourself." Finished. He threw the jade slip to Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong hadn't moved yet, but Hui was one step ahead, grabbing the jade slip and checking it. Gradually, the veins on his forehead gradually bulged. Finally, he suddenly raised his head and roared angrily, "Heavens, why are you so unfair? Both of my iron boxes contained low-grade god arts, yet this person took out a single iron box, and it actually contained a perfect god art. I refuse to accept this. It's really a perfect divine art," Qin Feiyong muttered. Hui withdrew his gaze and lowered his head to look at Qin Feiyong, sighing. "Not only is it a perfect divine art, but it's also a soul secret art. A perfect level soul secret art is at least comparable to a peak divine art." "What? Soul secret art?" Qin Feiyong's gaze trembled, looking at the jade slip in Hui's hand, his heart burning. This time, the old man in black looked at Hui and said, "Wrong, the value of a perfect level soul secret art is comparable to a legendary divine art." Hearing this, Hui's face twitched. Looking at the old man in black, frowning, did he cheat? Otherwise, how could he find such a good divine art? Impudent. The old man in black's face darkened. Hui's face changed, hurriedly saying, I'm sorry, I was confused by anger. I didn't do it on purpose." The old man in black said coldly, "My Nine Heavens Palace's martial arts treasury is all based on luck. There has never been any cheating. Don't let this old man hear such words again." Yes. Hui nodded. Nie Kong smiled proudly, looked at Hui and said, "Return the jade slip to me. I'm so envious." Hui sighed, reluctantly throwing the jade slip to Nie Kong. Nie Kong caught it in his hand, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Zhang Haoyan, it's your turn." There's something wrong with the atmosphere." Hui looked at Nie Kong and Qin Feiyong. When Nie Kong entered the martial arts treasury, he saw it with his own eyes, but he didn't think much about it. But now, looking at the expression and tone of the two, there was something wrong. Could it be that something happened in the martial arts treasury that he didn't know about? Soul secret art, Qin Feiyong murmured, looking down at the two iron boxes in his hand. He couldn't help but worry. Even the old man in black said that the jade slip in Nie Kong's hand was comparable to a legendary divine art. Legendary divine art. Could the two divine arts in his hands be compared to it? Hurry up. Don't waste time. Otherwise you can just admit defeat. Nie Kong joked. With this soul secret art, it was equivalent to having victory in hand. Admit defeat? Hui was stunned. It seemed that something unknown had really happened in the martial arts treasure house. The old man in black also looked at the two of them with interest. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and released his hands. The two iron boxes immediately floated in the air. Then he waved his hand, and the lids opened at the same time. Buzz! Wisps of brilliant godly light surged forward like a tide. Looking at this scene, Hui's eyes immediately widened and were filled with disbelief. The old man in black, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, suddenly stood up and looked at the two iron boxes in shock. The smile on Nie Kong's face gradually disappeared. because the divine light emitted by the two jade slips was several times brighter than the jade slip in his hand. But Qin Feiyong didn't relax. After all, the soul's secret art Nie Kong obtained was comparable to a legendary divine art. He stretched out his hand, took out the two jade slips, and poured his divine thought into them. A huge amount of information suddenly flowed into his mind. Legendary divine art, soul destruction technique. Legendary divine art, sky trampling 9 steps. What? Qin Feiyong was stunned. It was actually 2 legendary level deity arts. How is it? How is it? Hui asked anxiously. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath, looked at Hui and said, soul destruction technique, sky trampling 9 steps. Both legendary divine arts. What the hell? Hui's eyes widened in anger. 2 legendary divine arts? What kind of joke was this? This luck was heaven-defying. Chapter 2077. Soul Destruction Technique, Sky Trampling 9 Steps. At the same time, the black-clothed old man looked at the 2 jade slips in Qin Feiyong's hands and muttered to himself. He was also in disbelief. There weren't many legendary-level divine arts in the martial arts treasury. It could even be described as very few. And since the creation of the 9 Heavens Palace, there were no more than 5 people who had obtained legendary-level divine arts in the martial arts treasury. But this person actually picked 2 legendary-level divine arts at once? What kind of luck was needed in this situation? If he didn't know the martial arts treasury well, he would have suspected that Qin Feiyong had cheated? Nie Kong was also dumbfounded. Although the soul secret technique in his hands was comparable to the legendary-level divine arts, the other party had 2 legendary-level divine arts in his hands. The winner and loser of this contest was clear. He lost. However, he didn't want to believe it. To obtain 2 legendary-level divine arts at once, this was even less likely than a pie falling from the sky. Let me see. Nie Kong stretched out his hand and looked at Qin Feiyong as he said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyong smiled and gave it to Nie Kong. Nie Kong grabbed the jade slips and sank his divine sense into the 2 jade slips. His face suddenly became sluggish. Hui also leaned forward and used his divine sense to check. There really are 2 legendary-level divine arts. Why, this is too unfair. That moment, he screamed again, his face full of unwillingness. Not to mention Hui and Nie Kong, in fact Qin Feiyong also felt like he was dreaming. Although he knew that the shadowless man would definitely not lie to him, he never thought that what he found for him was actually 2 legendary-level divine arts. Too unexpected, too pleasantly surprised. The black-clothed old man looked away and looked deeply at Qin Feiyong, saying, "Return the iron box to this old man." Yes. Qin Feiyong came back to his senses and quickly handed the 2 iron boxes to the black-clothed old man respectfully. The black-clothed old man took the iron box and smiled hoarsely. "You are very lucky, but remember, don't be arrogant and cherish these 2 divine arts. This disciple will remember." Qin Feiyong bowed and said, "Yes." The black-clothed old man nodded and returned to his original position. He sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes to rest. Alas! A moment passed. Nie Kong let out a low sigh and returned the 2 jade slips to Qin Feiyong, saying, "I didn't expect that after obtaining the secret soul technique, I would still lose to you. Fate really makes fools of people. It's just that my luck is a little better than yours." Qin Feiyong said with a smile. "Can you 2 stop being so sarcastic? Have you considered my feelings?" Hui angrily said. Compared to the deity arts obtained by these 2 people, his little bit of harvest was a joke. Couldn't even be considered as trash. However, Qin Feiyong and Nie Kong ignored him. "I'm a man of character. If I say I'll run naked, then I'll run naked." Nie Kong glanced around and took off his shirt without any hesitation. "Wait." Qin Feiyong stopped him. Nie Kong was suspicious. "Let's find a place to talk in private." After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he soared into the air and flew towards the inner sect. Nie Kong frowned, put on his clothes and chased after Qin Feiyong. Naked? Hui looked at the 2 of them suspiciously and quickly chased after them. Dozens of breaths later, Qin Feiyong landed on the top of an uninhabited mountain. Nie Kong and Hui also landed on the mountain peak one after another. Qin Feiyong turned to look at Nie Kong and asked, "Are you a alchemy master?" Nie Kong shook his head. Qin Feiyong said, "Then how about we make a deal?" "What deal?" Nie Kong frowned. Qin Feiyong said, "Give me that secret soul technique, and I'll forget about the matter of running naked for 3 days. Running naked for 3 days? Hui was taken aback. Looking at the two of them, he wondered, what kind of agreement did you make in the martial arts treasury? It has nothing to do with you. Qin Feiyong glanced at Hui, then looked at Nie Kong. The value of the secret soul technique is indeed great, but the consequences of running naked for 3 days is not a trivial matter. Nie Kong's brows furrowed. That's true. If you really run naked for 3 days, I'm afraid you won't have the face to continue staying in Nine Heavens Palace. Hui looked at Nie Kong. Although he didn't understand, Qin Feiyong's goal was obviously the secret soul technique in Nie Kong's hands, so he planned to help Qin Feiyong. He didn't need to do anything else, he just needed to fan the flames from the side. Nie Kong looked at the two of them, his brows furrowed even tighter. Running naked for 3 days, losing all face. A secret soul technique comparable to a legendary grade divine art. How should he choose between the two? Hui continued, "Besides, you're not an alchemy master. The secret soul technique is useless." Nie Kong said, "I can take it to sell soul stones. Then you have to run naked. It's still a full 3 days. At that time, even if you get a lot of soul stones, you won't be able to erase this shame." Hui said lightly. Nie Kong frowned, hesitating. "How about this? I'll give you another 100 million soul stones. In this way you don't have to run naked, and you can also earn a lot of soul stones. It's the best of both worlds." Qin Feiyong said, 100 million soul stones. Nie Kong was petrified on the spot. 100 million as soon as he opened his mouth. He was really rich. "Take your time to think about it. When you've decided, come to the St. Peak to find me." After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he turned and left. "Wait." Nie Kong lowered his head and suddenly gritted his teeth, looking at Qin Feiyong's back. Qin Feiyong stopped and turned to look at Nie Kong. "Deal." Nie Kong nodded, then took out a jade slip and threw it to Qin Feiyong. "It's quite straightforward." Qin Feiyong grabbed the jade slip, checked it a little, and then sent a message to the Fire Lotus in the castle to prepare 100 million soul stones. Soon, 100 million soul stones were ready, and Qin Feiyong handed it to Nie Kong. Nie Kong checked it a little and put it away, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said coldly, "The matter between us is not over yet. Anytime." Qin Feiyong said, "Humph." Nie Kong snorted coldly, turned around and streaked across the sky like lightning, disappearing. Hui asked suspiciously, "Brother Jiang, who is this person?" Nie Yan's elder brother, Nie Kong. "The hostility I felt the previous 2 times was from him," Qin Feiyong said. "So that's how it is." Hui nodded and said, "So you guys had a conflict in the martial arts treasury?" "He was the one who took the initiative to come to me and wanted to bet his life with me. Moreover, he thought that the destruction of his Nie family was related to me. It seems that there will be a lot of trouble in the future." "What a headache." Qin Feiyong rubbed his forehead. Trouble was what he was most afraid of. He only wanted to cultivate well and then look for his ancestor. Why was it so difficult? Hui smiled faintly. "Since it's trouble, then it's better to get rid of it as soon as possible." "Get rid of it? Why don't you try?" Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. "How can I be his opponent?" Hui laughed embarrassedly. "Then why did you say it?" Qin Feiyong was speechless. Although Nie Kong had not revealed his cultivation, from the aura he exuded, he was at least a perfect divine lord. An expert of this level was not an ordinary person. Of course, with his current cultivation, it was not impossible for a perfect divine lord to deal with a perfect divine lord, because the 6-word divine arts could ignore large realms. However, if he really fought, it would be hard to predict what would happen during the fight. If he was injured and exposed the purple gold dragon blood, it would be a disaster for him. Therefore, if he could avoid fighting, he would try his best not to fight. Even if he was forced to fight, he had to find a hidden place. At least there was no third person present. Hui looked at the jade scroll in Qin Feiyong's hand and said sourly, "This time you've earned a lot. Not only did you get 2 legendary level divine artifacts, but you also got a secret soul technique. Thinking about it, I can't help but want to strangle you to death. How could you have such good luck? This is something that can't be envied. Qin Feiyong smiled proudly and lowered his head to check the jade scroll. This secret soul technique was called the soul-gathering divine art. After cultivating this technique, one could actively increase the level of their mental strength. But the process was somewhat slow. It was very similar to the soul refining technique. But it didn't matter. Anyway, one day in the ancient castle was equivalent to 1 year. After Dan Wangkai broke through to the war god realm, it wouldn't be long before his mental strength would break through to level 50. After putting away the jade scroll, Qin Feiyong took out an image crystal and sent a message to Mu Tianyang to go to the resource hall to register. Then, he flew towards the resource hall with a face full of joy. Sigh. Normally, I haven't done anything that offends the heavens and reason. Why is my character so bad? Hua Yi followed beside Qin Feiyong with a face full of grief. 9 Heaven Palace. Deep in a courtyard. What? 2 legendary level divine arts. Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Great Elder and Shangguan Fenglan stood together, looking at a figure in the void in front of them. Their faces were filled with shock. That figure was the black-clothed old man guarding the martial arts treasury. I knew that you wouldn't believe me, but I saw it with my own eyes. The black-clothed old man smiled bitterly. How could this be? The first time he entered the martial arts treasury, he got 2 legendary level divine arts. He couldn't have done something, right? Shangguan Fenglan said. This kind of thing could be described as a miracle. It was really hard to accept. Tampering? The black-clothed old man smiled helplessly and said, You all know the situation in the martial arts treasury. There is no possibility of tampering. It can only be said that his luck is too good. The great elder asked, Then what 2 divine arts did he get? The black-clothed old man said, Soul destruction technique, sky trampling 9 steps. What? The great elder's face was full of shock. Shangguan Fenglan was also shocked and muttered, These 2 divine arts were left behind by the first-generation palace master of our 9 Heaven Palace. Speaking of which, Shangguan Fenglan looked at the great elder and said, This child obtained these 2 divine arts at once. Does this mean that he has already obtained the recognition of the first-generation palace master? The recognition of the first-generation palace master. The black-clothed old man glanced at Shangguan Fenglan and lowered his head to ponder. The first elder was silent as well. The scene fell into a deathly silence. After an unknown amount of time, the great elder let out a long breath and looked at the black-clothed old man with a smile. This old man and Fenglan still have some things to discuss. That's all for now. All right. The black-clothed old man nodded, and the shadow quickly dissipated. Chapter 2078. After the black-robed old man's silhouette dissipated, the Grand Elder withdrew his gaze and sat on the chair, saying, Fenglan, you seem to have told this old man that this child and Mu Tianyang had researched a kind of 4 symbols infinite divine pellet? Yes. Shangguan Fenglan nodded and said, I saw it with my own eyes. After Mu Tianyang took this pill, he broke through to the perfection war god realm. Then why didn't you ask for the pill formula? The great elder was suspicious. Shangguan Fenglan was stunned and hurriedly said, First elder, this isn't appropriate, right? After all, the 4 symbols infinite pill was painstakingly researched by them. If we do this, wouldn't it be forcing them against their will? As disciples of 9 Heaven Palace, they have the responsibility and obligation to contribute to our 9 Heaven Palace. The great elder laughed. This, Shangguan Fenglan frowned. Obviously, the great elder was determined to get the pill formula of the 4 symbols infinite divine pill. Of course, our 9 Heaven Palace will not take their pill formula for free. The great elder said again. What do you mean? Shangguan Fenglan asked carefully. The great elder said, Make an exception and let them enter the purple gold divine pagoda to cultivate, and give them 100,000 soul stones every month. Enter the purple gold divine pagoda? Great elder, this is a treatment that only disciples of the heaven list have. Moreover, there are people on every floor of the purple gold divine pagoda. We can't chase out the other disciples of the heaven list just because of them. Shangguan Fenglan said. There were only 10 floors in the purple gold divine pagoda, and they were occupied by the 10 disciples of the heaven list. In other words, the current purple gold divine pagoda did not have any extra caves. If Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang were to enter the purple gold divine pagoda, then they would have to chase out the 2 disciples of the heaven list. If Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang's strength had already reached the level of disciples of the heaven list, then it was nothing. However, the 2 of them were only perfection war gods, not even half-step divine lord. Would others be convinced? There is no need to chase them out. How about this? Let the 2 of them live on the same floor. Wouldn't that make one floor empty? The great elder laughed. 2 people living on the same floor? Shangguan Fenglan frowned and said, Great elder, our 9 heavens palace has never had such a precedent. The great elder said, rules are dead but people are alive. We must know how to be flexible. Alright, I'll ask them first. After all, this kind of thing can't be forced. We have to get their consent first. Shangguan Fenglan said. They will agree. After all, the purple gold divine pagoda contains a time array. It's a place that all disciples dream of. The great elder smiled confidently. That's true. Shangguan Fenglan nodded. The great elder said, actually, this old man is doing this to nurture them. Nurture them? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. What do you think? Do you know how everyone will talk about me behind my back if I let 2 disciples who aren't even divine lords enter the purple gold divine pagoda? This old man is under a lot of pressure at most. But there's nothing we can do about it. Who told Jiang Haotian to be recognized by the first-generation palace master? The great elder sighed. Shangguan Fenglan said in surprise, listening to what you said, do you want to nurture him as the next palace master? The great elder was stunned and said with a wry smile, you're exaggerating. Which of the top 10 disciples on the heaven list isn't a talented person? He has no chance to be the next palace master's successor. Shangguan Fenglan was stunned and couldn't help but laugh at herself. That's right. Although Jiang Haotian's attainments in alchemy were extremely high, his strength was still far from a true disciple on the heaven list. And as the palace master of the 9 heavens palace, strength was actually the most important thing, and alchemy was only secondary. Because if one didn't have enough strength, then they wouldn't have the ability to let the 9 heavens palace stand on the territory of the northern region forever. Resource Hall. Outside the square. At this moment, tens of thousands of people were gathered, all of them inner disciples. Among them, there were even disciples from the top 10 St. Peaks. Naturally, they were all here to sign up. And in the center of the square, a golden-robed fatso sat majestically on a chair. 2 little followers stood respectfully by the side. This person was Jean Fatso. In front of Jean Fatso there was a table. On the table there was a booklet. The names of those who signed up would be recorded in the booklet. Jean Zhou, Perfect Circle War God. A black-clothed young man said as he strode forward with a grim expression on his face. Yes. Jean Fatso nodded. After recording the name, he raised his head and looked at Jean Zhou with a smile in his eyes. Jean Zhou also smiled knowingly and then retreated to the side. Look, it's Mu Tianyang. He actually came too. This guy is also a ruthless person. Yeah. Half a month ago, he went to challenge the number 1 person on the Earth list. At first, no one was optimistic about him. But in the end, the number 1 person on the Earth list didn't even have the strength to fight back in front of him. He's the same as Jiang Haotian. He just entered the 9 heavens palace not long ago. I didn't expect him to reach the top of the Earth list. How terrifying. The crowd suddenly became restless. Everyone turned around and saw a youth in purple robes with his hands behind his back. He walked in the air step by step. Who else could it be but Mu Tianyang? Although he restrained his natural emperor aura, he was still like a bright star that made people look up to him. Shua. Mu Tianyang stepped onto the plaza. Greetings, senior brother Mu. Many people immediately bowed and saluted. Although the disciples on the Earth list couldn't be compared to the disciples on the Heaven list, they still had a lot of prestige in the 9 heavens palace. Especially the number 1 person on the Earth list. Mu Tianyang smiled faintly and walked in front of Jean Fatso, saying, Mu Tianyang, Perfect Circle War God. Jean Fatso was stunned. What's wrong? Mu Tianyang smiled and asked. Jean Fatso said, You're already the #1 person on the Earth list. Your treatment is much better than the Resource Palace. Why are you still here to sign up? Is there a rule that the #1 person on the Earth list can't enter the Resource Palace to work? Mu Tianyang asked. No. Jean Fatso subconsciously shook his head. Then I can't. Mu Tianyang smiled faintly and walked to the side. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and remained silent. That outstanding temperament was like a crane in a flock of chickens. Jean Fatso regained his senses and hurriedly memorized Mu Tianyang's name. But in his heart he was puzzled. Previously, when he met Mu Tianyang's gaze, he couldn't help but feel a sense of panic. One must know. His cultivation was higher than Mu Tianyang's. Why would he have such a feeling? Look. It's Zhang Haotian. And Hua Yi. Why are the two of them here too? Not long after, the crowd became restless again. Mu Tianyang finally reacted. He looked at Qin Feiyong and a smile appeared on his face. Hello, senior brother Jiang. You're here too. When Qin Feiyong landed on the square, the disciples came forward to compliment him. Once a person became famous, his status would naturally be different. What's more, everyone now thought that Frenzy was Qin Feiyong's backer, so they were even more polite. Qin Feiyong didn't put on any airs and greeted them with a smile. However, a cold glint flashed in Fatty Jin's eyes without leaving a trace. On the surface, however, he still maintained a friendly and amiable appearance. He stood up and smiled. Brother Jiang, you've also come. Senior brother Jean, am I not welcome? Qin Feiyong smiled. No. Jean Fatso waved his hand repeatedly. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with a touch of ridicule and sighed. Senior brother Jean, you're not keeping your promise. Not keeping my promise? Jean Fatso was taken aback and asked suspiciously. Junior brother Jiang, why do you say that? Last time, didn't you say that you wanted to be a peacemaker and invite me and senior brother Feng Zijuan to the Jade Zither house for a few drinks and forget about our enmity? I've been waiting for it, but I didn't get an invitation from senior brother Jean. Now that senior brother Feng Zijuan has been assassinated, I don't even have the chance to apologize. Qin Feiyong sighed. So it's about this. Jean Fatso muttered and sneered in his heart. This was just a polite remark at that time. He didn't expect this person to take it seriously. Yes. It's my fault. I've been too busy during this period and forgot. I hope junior brother Jiang can forgive me. But what is junior brother Jiang doing here today? Don't tell me you're also here to sign up? Jean Fatso said. Yes, I'm here to sign up. Qin Feiyong nodded. This, junior brother Jiang, you shouldn't be clear about the rules, right? This registration requires the cultivation of a perfect war god. You, as a perfect war god, are still a little lacking. Jean Fatso said with some difficulty. That's right, senior brother Jiang. This rule was announced a long time ago. Didn't you see it? The surrounding people also followed. Qin Feiyong looked around and laughed. Who said that I'm a perfect war god? Finish speaking. His aura suddenly exploded. What? Perfect war god? Jean Fatso was stunned. How was this possible? Half a month ago, didn't he just break through to the perfect war god? The surrounding crowd also rubbed their eyes in disbelief. When he first arrived at the Nine Heaven Palace, this person was still a low-level war god. How long had it been? He actually broke through to the perfect war god? Did he eat some kind of miraculous pill? How could it be so fast? Qin Feiyong laughed. To be honest, I've been hiding my cultivation. My true cultivation has always been at the perfect war god. So it's like that. I told you it's impossible to be so fast. I didn't expect senior brother Jiang to still be hiding his strength. Everyone came to a sudden realization and smiled flatteringly. You flatter me. Compared to senior brothers and sisters, my cultivation is still far from enough. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and looked at Jean Fatso. He smiled and said, Senior brother Jean, can I register now? Sure. Jean Fatso regained his senses and nodded repeatedly. He remembered Qin Feiyong's name. Hua Yi, perfect war god. Hua Yi also spoke. You're also a perfect war god. Jean Fatso was stunned. That's right. I used to hide my cultivation too. Hua Yi grinned and also released his aura. He was indeed a perfect war god. Actually, the situation was like this. On the way here, he entered the Black Tortoise realm and took the 4 symbols infinite divine pill that Qin Feiyang gave him. Then, he successfully broke through to the perfect war god. This was also the reason why he asked Qin Feiyang for the 4 symbols infinite divine pill. After all, the requirement to register was to be a perfect war god. If he didn't have the 4 symbols infinite divine pill, he wouldn't have been able to break through to the perfect war god before registering. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.